It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Andy, Renee, Alex, all in the house. Very important, 0-day flaw. There's a fix for macOS and iOS. You're going to want to download. We'll talk about why that came out today. Apple's quarterly results come out later today. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Apple TV Plus finally has a big hit. Plus all the rumors. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 776, recorded Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. Perfect is enemy of the good. This episode of Mac Break Weekly is brought to you by CacheFly. Give your users the seamless online experience they want. Power your site or app with CacheFly's CDN and be 30% faster than the competition. Learn more at twit.cachefly.com. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple with Mr. Alex Lindsay of Office Hours fame, 090.media, officehours.global.
Hello, hello.
You were, it was funny because I was, before the show, recording a Q&A I'm doing for a New Tech for a piece they're putting out, and we'll let you know when they put that out. And they asked about video, and why do you put all this energy into lighting and set? And Alex is like making faces and sending me thumbs up. Thank you for the moral support. I appreciate it. You do a little bit more than we do, I must say. But
I prefer just a laptop and the in computer.
Sure, you got a little ring light you bought on eBay for $20.
I didn't get a ring light. I just try to get to the nearest window that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
usually it. Yeah.
Actually, in some ways, a single point light from a window, good lights that's probably good enough.
For a while.
If we had windows in the studio, I might do that.
It's unpredictable. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Until the sun goes down.
Interface.
Yeah. I thought when in the old studio in the brick house we built, it was a storefront, so we had these big panes, big plate glass windows. I thought, it'd be so great. Well, and the sun was so bright coming slanting in because it faced west all afternoon that we actually had to cover them up basically because we couldn't.
We always people say, well, let's shoot at sunset, and we're always like, do you really want to do that?
No. Look, I got a light I can make yellow. Let's just do that. What do you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Also with us, Mr. Andy Anako from WGBH in Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Yeah, natural sunlight from window works great as long as you can afford one of those fancy office chair that swivels. You just have to
follow the sun.
So long as you put your entire desk on a turntable, so that over the course of the show,
the house is actually on a servo mechanism that keeps it pointing west.
All to avoid having to afford a $40 LED light.
And Renee Ritchie, who does care about quality because he's a YouTuber, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Look at that set. It's getting fancier by the minute.
I got sharks. Eyes black as coal.
Sharks in the background.
What I do is I set my webcam. It's already bad. It's already a potato. I set it to 480p, and then I use the Safari interface to light me. And then if I forget and I change windows, it just goes down to nothing. And you have to cope with that live. That's what professionals do.
Actually, I wouldn't recommend the Safari interface for lighting. Although I have seen
better.
I have. Let me. That's kind of what Steve Gibson uses. He's got a big bright monitor in front of him, and I can tell when he's gone dark mode because suddenly you can't see him very well. Actually, an interesting article about Safari, perrysun.com. For developers, Apple's Safari is crap and outdated. He says his complaints are several. First, Apple's poor support of progressive web apps, which he says is to protect their App Store revenue. I do wish they do support it, but they don't support it that well. They're not alone. Firefox dumped its support for progressive web apps recently as well, which is too bad.
I think the reason that they don't support it is not many people use it.
Yeah.
I think if a lot of people used it, they would support it.
But it's a catch-22 until Apple it's the same thing with spatial audio. Nobody used it until Apple says, spatial audio.
I don't think it's that though. I think it's profound. It's a profound difference in the way that people see the web, and it's not that a lot of people don't use it. It is huge. If you use an Electron app, you're essentially using a packaged web app.
Right.
Everything from Slack to Discord, all of those are web apps that are instantiated through Electron. It's why Microsoft ended up dumping their own rendering engine and going with Chromium because they got all of that for free, and they just didn't have a healthy native app ecosystem anymore, and they had to go in with web apps. I think that's the huge difference, is that Apple has a vibrant native app ecosystem, and they believe that that's a fundamentally better, more power efficient, more secure, more private infrastructure for handling web apps. And Google doesn't. Google, they have Android because they had to, but Android never felt very googly. WebOS always felt more googly, and this definitely progressive web apps feel super googly. But it's a disagreement about the future of the web that they haven't solved yet.
And unfortunately, while Chrome has something like 90% market share, and if you include Chromium engines, huge market share. But I don't think we want a monoculture either. I think what we'd like is a very vibrant, competitive Safari WebKit and a very vibrant and competitive Firefox.
And it uses that much battery because, in part, of all the service agents and native web apps that it's using, because that's heavy stuff.
Well, service workers, things like that. Apple did kind of dragging its feet, did support partially, but you can't do notifications. There's quite a few things you can't do. He also complains that its support for WebRTC is lagging, which is probably true. That is a technology that is not explicitly Google, but came from Google and is kind of seen as a Google technology.
And it's not as stable as we'd like it to.
Yeah, you know about WebRTC.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of stuff with WebRTC, and I mean, Zoom itself, what we're coming in on is a flavor of WebRTC with a lot of extra special sauce on it. And the issue is WebRTC in itself is pretty powerful. The real problem you get into is it doesn't transverse complex networks very well. And so it just becomes a lot of work. That's why we don't tend to use it.
That's why we stopped using OBS Ninja, which is a great tool, but our complex network and some of our contributors' complex network made it not such a great choice.
It just means that you can't turn it on and have it just work. Yeah. Like, and a lot of times...
Which was the promise of WebRTC, I might add. It was, all you need is a browser. You don't need an app. Apparently, Apple's support for WebRTC is there, but it's buggy, and developers find it difficult.
It's what the new FaceTime uses, I think, so they're going to have to rapidly improve that if they
interesting.
The FaceTime experience on Android and Windows.
But the bigger one, and I think one we would care more about, is bugs and infrequent updates. Unlike Chrome or Firefox, Safari updates are not automatic on a regular basis, although Apple has of late been pushing out more updates. It's interesting. There's going to be a real battle over the next Safari. Some people really hate what they're doing in the next Safari.
They've walked it back so much. Even today, they walked it back again.
Yeah. I use Safari on my MacBook because of the battery life, but also it does. I mean, it's natively integrated into Keychain and. It's great.
Also, if you want to watch anything that I deal with HDR, and if you want to watch anything with HDR space, you can't really do it on the other browsers very well.
Yeah. Anyway, I bring that up not for any reason, but just because you mentioned Safari. So I thought, we'll mention this. Actually, probably the most important story of the week is that there is a update today to the update from last week. 14. You've always said this, Alex. Never download the first update, 14.7. You also say don't download the second update. Download the third update, which will fix the bugs they're introducing with
the blue update, not the red update.
It's like a little stutter step that you got to do right behind the line before you go through the hole. You just kind of just like wait for all the blockers to do their thing, and then you move through.
In this case, I might not think it's a good idea to wait because iOS 14.7.1, which came out today, and macOS 11.5.1 fix a 0-day. So it might be kind of important. This
is it a Pegasus 0-day?
We're not sure, but we think it might be. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. No one knows exactly, but that seems to be the consensus. It's a 0-day that will allow. This is for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS from Apple's Support Hub. I/O mobile frame buffer available for iPhone 6s and later, iPad Pro, iPad Air 2, iPad 5th Gen Mini. iPod Touch. An application may be able to execute arbitrary code with kernel privileges. Apple is aware of a report that this issue... Good
for you, Apple.
Yes. We're aware of a report that this issue may have been actively exploited. It's a memory corruption
issue.
When
their contiguous support for devices going back 5 years hurts them as much as it helps us.
Yeah. Yeah, and we want them to do that. Area. Yeah, we want them to do that, but
But still, whenever you see an update that comes right on the heels of a previous update, you know that something's just bad has happened and that you really, really should download this one.
it's either a bad bug or, in this case, it's a security issue, and that's probably not one to wait for. That's their 13th zero-day fix, by the way, this year. Which I don't think is an Apple thing. I think everybody's doing it.
Right.
I think the bad guys are very aggressive out there.
Still, it makes you nostalgic for the days when Apple used to crow about how, oh boy, aren't you glad you're using an Apple product, not one of those insecure, terrible, weak security devices from Google or somebody else or Windows. And you're right, it's not a reflection on Apple dropping the ball. It's a reflection on exactly how complicated these things have gotten, partly because of the exploding marketplace for malware at this point. It really is a turnkey operation for so many things at this point.
And this from the record, another reason why you might want to patch it quickly. Shortly after the patch, a security researcher published proof of concept code for the vulnerability on his Twitter timeline. And a second security researcher who says, I found this independently, published a detailed write-up of the issue, which he said he was preparing to report to Apple before he was surprised to find out that the OS maker had patched it. So, in other words, if there's proof of concept code out there, it's only a matter of time before people start writing their own. So no longer is it merely the domain of Pegasus. All of you now can do the same thing.
Well, and I think also we just probably want to consider the scale of things. I mean, Apple's posting a lot of patches doesn't mean how many of them have actually been exploited or at any kind of scale. I mean, we have entire cities getting shut down on.
I understand.
Those aren't.
But these 13 patches are 0 days, which means they're in the wild.
They're in the wild, but I mean, we don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah. Well, in the case of the Pegasus, it was a small number of targeted individuals. But once the code's published, that suddenly can go to a large number of people.
You don't particularly care that this is only affected 2,000 people if you're one of the people gets affected.
Well, that's true.
So
especially if you're a journalist or a dissident in a country where
they absolutely have to fix it. I'm just saying when people worry about it,
you and I probably don't have to worry about it. Actually, you do.
Be informed.
You do work for big people, and you probably should pay more attention. What do you do? Do you, Alex? Given I think you've mentioned that you've spent some time in the White House. Not, I don't know, lately, but in the past.
A White House. She's
White
not
House.
allowed to say
a house that is white. But what do you do for security? You obviously have a higher duty.
On a day-to-day basis, right now I'm not doing any of those kinds of things. So when we locked down for events, last fall we spent a lot of time that we were most likely a target of state actors, and so. Or at least a potential target for state actors, and so due to the nature of our work, and so we have a lot of security. My phone was something that the phone that I used for that. Number one, we didn't discuss anything on it. We kept everything on phone calls, but also you don't use messages like you use Signal, for that. And even then, you worry about everything that you're typing. Signal is set to usually a 24-hour deletion. So it just keeps on wiping, as you're working. And then, a lot of extra security. The computers don't touch other computers. Like they kind of do what they need to do. And only the ones that need to touch the internet. You get really paranoid about everybody who sends you anything. So every link, every email, when someone sends you they don't use blind CC. When my kids' teachers don't send me things that don't
that drives me nuts.
Include blind CC. They get a quick email from me that's as nice as I can make it, but like, hey, you're putting us all at risk. That is the,
it drives
a
me
big
nuts.
piece of that.
A lot of people don't know that.
We
But
worry about that kind of
frankly,
stuff.
Alex, every time an app asks you to share your contact list, whoever shares their contact list is sharing your.
We saw that at Clubhouse. Did you see that? How many phone numbers got compromised on Clubhouse over the weekend?
There you go. I rest my case.
It was millions of phone numbers, including people from celebrities, government.
Yeah. And of course, Clubhouse, like all these apps, say, well, if you want to know when your friend joins, just share your contact list with us.
I did it, I have to admit, on my personal phone. But the more it was the number one thing that turned me off. Like, I just was like, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to even encourage people to use it.
Do you bring in a consultant? Do you have...
No, our consultant. Well, we had a really good consultant for last fall.
See, that's okay. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, because this stuff's hard, and even though you're a very sophisticated user, you really want to bring in somebody who really this is their job. This is what they do all the time.
I mean, fundamentally, the other thing you have to understand is that you can be leveraged, and so the main thing is that you just get really careful about what you put in email, what you put in texts, even what you say over the phone. You just worry about it. You think about it. Just know that everything like that can be used against you. And one of the things is that you just don't do anything interesting. Like I don't do anything interesting on the web. Like that would get that I couldn't explain. Right. At this point, I don't do anything on the web that I can't explain to my wife, to the government, to the press, to the public, to the if I can't explain it, I won't do it because it's just too dangerous.
Just assume that everything you do on the internet is public, basically.
Yeah.
Because it could be at some point, including joining Clubhouse and your phone number. But that's a part of it. But there's also the issue of being hacked. As a gateway, if your laptop got hacked and then you bring it inside the White House and now you're joining a White House network, you could be bringing in stuff. Yeah, so there's all sorts of other issues as well.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of security there. So related to that, the biggest problem you have when you plug into something like let's just say something like the White House, is that that you're basically plugging into the NSA. So as soon as you plug your computer,
it goes both ways, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Like as soon as you plug that Ethernet in,
you're saying hello.
You can see it scanning, and it just it just scans. It scans everything all the way down to the firmware. So So you're the most like you think Pegasus. Just think of that times 10. You're plugging your computer into it. So we did not plug our personal computers into Ethernet there. And
that's
primarily,
smart,
we had video fiber. There's video fiber that goes out of the White House that goes into another building. That's where our master control was. So we didn't really need to stream from it. You just hook literally a SDI cable up, and it just shows up somewhere else. Yeah. It goes through.
That's nice. It's not the public internet. It's just fiber.
Pipe.
It's a big pipe.
Yeah, just a pipe. Yeah.
We should mention that Clubhouse leak, which was claimed to be 1.3 million scraped user records. From a SQL database. Now Clubhouse is denying that, and others are saying it's probably not a breach. So that's in progress. Clubhouse says I'll read their statement that actually the chat room posted it here. Thank you, chat room. They're very quick on the draw. That they're in the event. Let's see. There are a series of bots. The spokesperson said, that generates billions of random phone numbers. In the event that one of these random phone numbers happens to exist on our platform due to mathematical coincidence, Clubhouse API returns no user identifiable information. So there seems to be a disagreement over what happened.
It's still good to re-examine your practices. Like I ordered the new 50mm RF lens for the Canon system. I just had to. It looks so good. And then the camera company texted me saying, please give us a review with an obscured short form link. And I'm like, you don't text people obscured links anymore.
Oh,
that's like, haven't you been watching the news?
Yeah.
I just wrote back going, this is not a very good idea. Please Google Pegasus.
Stop it. Yeah. And the point I'm making, I guess, with the sharing your contact list, because every app asks for it, and it is a convenience, is that it's not merely that you're giving up your information. Yeah. You're giving up everything you know about every one of your friends. So I'm giving people Alex Lindsay's private phone number if I do that.
And the problem is that it's the
CEOs, and you probably know, a whole bunch. And the problem is Alex's phone is probably a treasure trove.
Right.
I have a story about that someday, but I won't say it on the show. Anyway, so the thing that also happens is when you're doing social engineering, having more people that are connected to each other, you can sew things in, to the process where it feels familiar. That, here's something, and you can research a lot more. So that's the real problem, is especially when we've seen these exploits of the Exchange servers that are when people weren't using the cloud, which is nuts, by the way. I mean, people think that I want to control my own email. That is There's you want to have a $1 billion company that pays that's the only job that they have is that's what you want, not for you to do that. Anyway, so the Exchange servers got leveraged and nothing happened. Well, they said we don't know what happened. Well, what happened is now you have tons and tons of information that you can use to familiarize yourself. So if you want to send someone a personal attack, that phishing becomes way more powerful than sending you a randomly poor English with a ugly link that isn't formatted well to something that looks exactly like it's coming from your bank or from Facebook or something, and it's said in a way and it's contextual to something that you may think is okay, and you click on it. And that's the stuff that you have to be, super careful about. And generally just links in general, it's just hard. It's hard. I mean, that's why also with passwords, it should be just hashes. You can't make something up, because if someone gets 2 or 3 of your passwords and you make them up yourself, you can start to see patterns. It's not that they'll know what pattern, they'll just know how you do your passwords. And that shortens their list by a lot. Right. So for me, I have a handful of very long strings that get me into my password manager. And then I have like 25 character hashes for everything, and it just makes it simpler.
I got this.
How is it, Leo? Is it cool?
This being the little magical puck that goes right on the back of your, goes right on the back of your MagSafe puck. And this one is on a iPhone 12 Pro Max, which means it doesn't go to the edges. On a mini, it will go all the way to the edges. This is the new Apple Magsafe Battery. I'll shake it really hard, see what happens. I'm scared. This holds on pretty well, right?
If you twist it I was shaking it like a headbanger and it was fine. George started shaking it sideways. It almost took off my head.
Really? The other thing,
if it twists, it'll come off.
It's $99. The other thing I like about it, it unfortunately has a lightning connector, which I guess makes sense. What would have been really cool is if Apple had kind of eased its way into Type-C by putting a Type-C connector on that, because it's also a MagSafe charger. So if you plug it in and use it, if you were going to get the puck, you could use it as a MagSafe charger that also is charging, unfortunately, not as much battery juice as the iPhone is, and it does have the nice graphics. It'll
charge your AirPods, but you can't charge it over. It's such a weird engineering thing, and I'm sure there's reasons for it, but it'll charge, you can use your iPhone to charge the MagSafe battery, but you can't use a MagSafe power cable to charge the MagSafe battery. It's
strange. I hate to say it. But this is a kind of a classic Apple product, which is nicely designed, not really anything anybody needs, I guess, and a little overpriced. It's a nice...
If you have the Mini, it's really nice. It turns the Mini from a daily to an all-daily, maybe
That's
even
the problem, because the Mini battery's crappy, right? Or not as much. Yeah. So I never have problems with my iPhone.
So it's
with my Max, I don't have any problem with it. I never have.
It's like a 2-day phone, me too.
Yeah. But so I guess you don't really need it. But if you had a Mini, and it fits nicely on the Mini, yeah. And I don't know, it's not as ugly as the snake that ate a mouse case.
The thing to remember about it is it'll charge 15 watts if it's plugged in. It'll charge 5 watts if it's not plugged in. So if I'm playing like Pokemon Go, I'm still using battery faster than it can recharge it. But the whole idea is that it's not a charger, it's an extender. So if you have a Mini and you are going out and you need extra battery, or if you have your Max Leo but you're going camping for the weekend,
right,
and you just want it, I'm going to keep 3 of them in my gear bag so that if I'm at an event I'm just running low, I can slap them on. They can be like Canon batteries to me.
Yeah, and they're cheaper, and they are cheaper than camera batteries. That's a good point. Yeah,
yeah. But they'll just slap it on, take it off, so they're not heavy all the time.
So that's actually a good use case. So you play Pokemon Go, and I know you in the past this has been an issue because you're out there all day. So it's grueling work hunting little Pokemon. So this is a good choice for a Pokemon Go player, you think?
Yeah, it's not a case. Some people really want a case because just the way they hold it, they keep unintentionally pulling it off,
right,
or they're doing a lot of things that might result in it coming off. So there are some advantages. This is almost like the Platokian ideal of what Apple's always wanted to do. Like the original MagSafe, the smart battery cases looked so goofy because Apple didn't want any material over the antennas, because a lot of battery cases, you put them into charge, but they block the radio, so the radio amps up, so it's consuming more power as you're charging them, and then it puts it into plug-in mode, so all the network coalescence acts up and it starts downloading things and syncing things and using even more power. So this is designed to use almost no power and to extend your battery. So if that's what you want, then get this. If that's not what you want, just get a brick. Much cheaper, much more power.
Yeah, and Anker sells a similar device. It's also magnetic for about half as much.
Yeah.
But I haven't tried it. I hear there are some downsides to that.
It's a bit bulkier, and it doesn't have the magic Apple integration, which I'm sure Congress is looking at immediately.
So I can't say whether to recommend it or not recommend it. You have to know what your use case is. Obviously, Renee needs 3, but but for most of us, I bought it just because, I should try it. It's not a terribly compelling product. I guess the biggest disappointment for me is it does not fully charge a Max. It only about half charges it.
I have to admit that I have like lots of different size ones. I have big ones that I have in my bag, usually if I'm traveling. And then I have little ones that I can throw in my back pocket. Like, I'm running a little low. I'm going to lunch. I just want to make sure I don't.
Right.
I can't run out of connection.
It makes me miss the days, and I really wish we'd bring them back, of replaceable batteries. Apple never did that, but Android phones have done that for years, where you pry off the back. You could buy 3 batteries, pry off the back, put a new one in. It makes it easier to recycle. It adds life to the phone.
But it also makes it harder to
look at you.
Weatherproof it.
I have a problem or a solution. I'm not sure which.
Well, I think you can still weatherproof it. I remember rubber grommets around it. I mean, there are ways to make it.
Yeah, I do. I agree that I think I do miss some of the modularity, but the availability of external chargers, even like the little pencil type ones that will just give you that one boost you need to get you over the cliff the rest of the day, has kind of almost made them obsolete. But you're right. I wish that there were that choice in Android space, but. I guess that
I have to admit that
we carry. I have many of these Anker 10,000 milliamp hour battery packs, which are about they're similar to, you can show this, John, they're similar to the thickness and size of the phone.
I have that one too.
Yeah, we have 4 or 5 of them, and Lisa will just put it in her purse or whatever if she needs. And it's $21. I mean, that's a
Well, particularly nowadays, when I used to have this one thing just to take me through like a day in New York or whatever. Now it's like, it'll also top off my iPad. It'll also top off my notebook.
Yeah,
it's like
it does more. So it's
my camera. That was the big score, when finally I don't necessarily have to bring extra batteries for my camera on the course of the day, because I can just charge it from a battery pack.
You could buy 5 of these, Renee, for the cost of 1 of the magnetic.
What I find kind of
I have that. I have those.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's not quite the same.
Yeah. What I find kind of interesting about it is that it's rare that Apple makes something under its own brand that is nice to have as opposed to essential. Like when they come up with cases, you kind of have to have a case for your phone. Headphones, you kind of have to have headphones. It's not since like the Apple sock, the iPod sock, that we get something that these are nice to have. It's an alternative to the regular USB-C type charger, but it's not going to be right for most. I'm sorry, most is probably the wrong word. It's not going to be right for all people, and there are better alternatives out there. It sounds like the sort of thing that they would typically encourage a hardware partner in the third party to make with their own
like
guidance.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. They have a big problem. I don't think it's a big problem, but they have a problem they need to overcome, because they're inexorably moving towards portless iPhones. But wireless is just not efficient. Like, it's not efficient for anything. It's not as good at transferring files. It's not as good at charging. It wastes a lot more energy than the power that you get. But it's so convenient that people like it, and it's become a popular feature. And we see this even with like Android devices are putting like 4 batteries in parallel now and warp charging them in a way that will probably melt them in 3.5 days. But people love that. Like it's like the megapixel war. The faster you can charge a phone, the better. But it goes against a lot of what they're saying about their environmental concerns. And I think these are the aspirational products they want to make to show the value of the MagSafe ecosystem as they move us towards that portless iPhone. But I still have massive reservations about the I don't know, the wisdom of that sort of transition.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to be, I will be really shocked if Apple can do a portless iPhone in such a way that it isn't a real middle finger to the consumer. I can't imagine what they're going to have to make the case of, here is why you want this to be a portless phone and you don't want to have a USB-C port on there. And you're going to have to talk to a whole bunch of skeptical people who are saying that, you want me to never, ever be able to use wired headphones, even with a dongle. You're saying that you never, ever are going to see me having a need to attach some sort of an external storage like a card reader. You're saying that all of these things that, you're saying that it will never, ever be necessary for me to dock this to my desktop to get this out of lock, to get anything done with it. You're saying that I will never, ever, ever be cursing the day that you and everybody else who has ever worn an Apple badge was born. And I can't imagine the case that they can make to say that ends with "you're welcome. We finally deleted you."
I think it's going to be a psyop
from the tyranny. Yeah.
I think they're going to cut that knot by making it the top of the. There'll be a special flagship iPhone again, like the iPhone 10 was, and it's not going to have a port. All of the plebe models, the low end, the muggle iPhones will have ports, but it'll be seen as like, oh, that one is so good, you don't need to. And then the next year it'll be like, oh, now finally everybody cannot have a port.
I know that's what happened with the headphone jack.
I do think that halfway. I think halfway in between though is some kind of connector like this, that you have a series of connectors on the back that just are contact.
That's what they're, I'm sure, going to do, right? Have this.
Like, I don't think it's going to be like wireless. I think
proprietary docks are awesome. I think that every single device I own should have its own dock system that is completely incompatible with everything else. That is the best solution. That's the most Apple solution they could possibly come up with.
Every vendor has their own proprietary wireless charger that only gives you the speeds that they tell you are normal if you have that charger. Otherwise, you get 15 watts like a plebe again.
Actually,
we're in such a weird time right now.
That raises a question: is this a Qi charger? This Magsafe battery pack?
It is Qi compatible.
So it would work
it won't work with your Apple Watch.
Oh, yeah, because that's not a Qi device.
No.
But if you had a Qi device, it would. But it would only charge at 5 watts, you're saying? It wouldn't do
15 watts when plugged in, 5 watts when not.
Oh, so even on Qi, it'll do 15 watts.
Yeah.
If it's plugged in. Oh, that's good enough.
Thanks. You just reminded me that I was gonna install the update, the security update this morning on my iPad, but I didn't have enough battery, and I brought this to my table to be charged, but I never actually plugged it in.
You didn't use a Qi charger? Oh, I should amend that, Leo. 12 watts on an iPhone Mini because the Mini's small and doesn't take the heat as well.
Got it.
So 12 watts on the Mini, 15 watts everything else.
Hey, just parenthetically, those of us on the public beta of iOS 15, or in my case, iPadOS 15, aren't getting a bug fix. Is that because we don't need a bug fix, or because
it's usually rolled into the betas?
It'll come into, or maybe it'll come with the next one. Well, I don't know. This was such urgent, recent one. I don't know if it's in it.
I don't think they've ever done a point beta I don't think they've ever done a point beta release. They figured like if you're on the betas, it's not your primary device, then that you've
another argument for not using the public beta, because you're not necessarily going to get
on your main device
on your or unless you're not worried about
ever use the public beta on your main device.
Well, that's obvious. Yeah,
that's crazy talk.
I say that while I use a beta on my public device.
15 beta 4 is coming.
Man.
It did come out today, but I think it's the developer beta, right?
I mean, it's really beta until the next version comes out. Like it's like it's mature. Like I'm looking forward. The machine that I'm on right now, I'm looking forward to updating to Big Sur in October, and then
And how long
was a big change in the? Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say the most exciting thing for me was that the macOS beta today brings live text to Intel Macs.
Yay.
Which they didn't do before because they just ported the iOS version over, and the iOS version leans completely on the neural engines, which the Mac doesn't have because the T2 chip in there is an A10, which was before neural engines were invented basically for Apple. And now what they're doing is because a lot of people demanded it, so they moved around the schedule to get people to actually make it. But because there's no cameras, they don't need to do it in real time. It's all done completely in real time on iOS. So now they're just going to do it opportunistically whenever they need the cycles for it on Intel Macs.
What is the typical time between the release of the developer beta and an update to the public beta?
2-3 days.
Okay. So those of us on the public beta could expect perhaps an update in the next few days.
Yeah.
Have you tried live text yet, Leo? Because I was using it a couple of times this week. It really surprised me. Like a family member was trying to get a wire transfer and they needed an address, and I had it in my wire transfer, but it was a photograph. But I just opened it up, selected the text, texted it to them. Yeah. They put it in, and what I saw that was amazing was people were looking at the Apple slides and just taking screenshots of all the Apple slides, cutting and pasting the code, like cutting the whole code example out and pasting it into their projects.
That is. So is that only in Monterey? Can I do that on iPadOS 15?
No, it's an iPad. Yeah, it's in everything now.
It's in
Like
everything.
that's one of the nice things that Apple's doing.
Okay, I will try it.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it. I forgot to try that.
I forget what Safari. Like I'm in screenshots in my camera, and I'm cutting and pasting text, and then I try to hit a
so
link. The link's
cool.
open, like the links for like addresses for phones for delivery dates open, and you forget you're not in a browser sometimes.
That is really nice.
These are the kind of features that every single major tech company needs to focus on. It's nice that that Apple's moved to Apple Silicon. It's there are other features that are subtle that are kind of nice. I feel as though we rarely get that kind of feature that, wow, you have solved a problem that I didn't even know was solvable. I thought it was part of life's burden that text would always appear in places where I'd have to retype it myself. The fact that now I just simply, if it exists on my screen, I can get it as not only get it as text, but also use it the way that the way that this text has been formatted. That's the sort of feature that I think that is missing from a lot of major OS updates on phones and on desktops.
I will say, though, I think that some of that it has to do with fragmentation, because I know for us, when we develop products that were cross-platform, just surviving the other platforms was, like on a Mac, there was like a small number of things that I have to do, especially if you're the one controlling the OS and the hardware. When you're on a PC, there was 27 options. When, like there was all these different things, and you spend so much time just surviving the experience that you don't innovate in a way that you can, because you have there's too many variables. And it is a big problem with development, and it slows everything down.
It is, but boohoo! $2 trillion company working on being a $3 trillion, and there are multiple companies that fit that description. And I'm not saying that, oh God, to hell with everybody that decides to just make internet speed better and to make things more secure. But I'm saying that you need to provoke that delight when you first update your operating system that says that, absolutely, oh my God, how long has this been happening, and why am I so stupid as to not have been using it all along? Absolutely. I think shortcuts is a lot like that. That the moment that I get the same sort of joy from shortcuts that I used to get off of AppleScript, and the same sort of flex when I show somebody when I do something that I've been doing like on my phone or on my iPad for like a long time, and someone's, wait, what did you just do? I said, oh well, I have a shortcut that just takes whatever URL is in front there and automatically puts it where how did you do that? Putting on the straw boater and my monorail. My monorail Samsung. Yes. When you see apps that really have really committed to shortcuts, like Adam Toe was showing in Mixeffect Pro, he's the developer Mixeffect Pro. He's got all these shortcuts that are all built into the whole thing, and you can do so much. Suddenly, it just takes the app and turns it into an entirely different thing, which already turns like the Blackmagic switcher into a whole other thing. And so, but it's when the developer really understands the culture and understands the process and starts adding all the hooks in that you need. Yeah, shortcuts just become just insanely powerful. Yeah. I think shortcuts are in the developer community. It's one of the most infectious, viral type of memes, because all you have to do is to get one developer on their own, relying on shortcuts for their own work, and suddenly they want every single tool that they build to support it, because they're going to be using this outliner themselves, they're going to be using this time manager themselves, and then they're not going to shortchange themselves in terms of features. And it really is a replay of what we used to see with AppleScript themselves, where people, I want to be able to script this myself, therefore I'm going to incorporate scripting into this tool that I'm building.
Yep.
It's, for a long time, the idea of putting Lua or some sort of scripting language in a program in gaming has been around for an awful long time. It's a really nice feature. It puts more hand in the power of users.
So many iOS games.
Yeah, it's really cool.
They've been sneaking it in for years.
Yeah.
Well, and it's nice that when you can build something that's really easy for someone, and then just leaving them a window of, hey, you can customize it. In Conduit, when we had Conduit, we would have all the stuff that you could build a nodal composite. You could do all the stuff, and we had all these tools. But Polly added, you can just put JavaScript in here. You can take the input and just write what you want it to do and have it come out, so that you could. And he did it because, again, he wanted to be able to go off the rails, and into the grass when he needed to, and then come back on. And then eventually he would turn that node, if he used it a lot, into an actual node. But he was able to experiment quickly, and anybody could. He just made it available.
To some degree, I feel like it's a mistake that Apple has historically made with AppleScript and shortcuts. They're trying to make it easy for everybody to use, but as a result, they're not real programming languages. And actually, I think they're harder to use than if you just had a language in there.
I guess I feel like, I think that's where they're trying to go with Swift, right? And so, but I still feel like there's this gap between. We've talked about this before. There's a gap between shortcuts and Swift, and I really think that gap is a nodal programming language. That basically lets you just draw out. And if you look at how complicated that can get, if you open up something like Unreal Engine, like all that stuff is built with all these nodes and all the behaviors and everything else. And yeah, you need to add some custom code. And every time you talk to someone that does development, they go, well, you can't do everything you can do in Swift or Objective-C. And you're like, maybe you don't need to. Maybe you just need to do more than what you can do with shortcuts.
Or let you access the components and add Swift code if you want. I think is that what they're doing with the iPad now? That Swift capability in iPad. I haven't played with it.
Yeah, I mean, Swift Playgrounds is in SwiftUI, and there's a lot of things there that make a lot of this possible. But the main thing is that if you did a nodal code, nodal coding, which could be compiled into a product and sold on the App Store, it means that lots of people, or given away on the App Store, just like I just want to use it on my phone. I want to build something that does the thing, and I don't want to learn how to write code. And then what would happen is it creates its own marketplace because developers could just create nodes. Like, this is the node that does the thing, and you could just buy nodes for $1 here and $2 there and incorporate them into your product. I just feel like it would be, that's the bridge. And then, yes, you get to a point where the nodes aren't enough, and then you move to Swift or SwiftUI.
Or you could put, again, I think being able to put, so when you develop an Xcode, you might still use an interface designer. It's not nodal,
right,
but you might still use an interface designer. But then you can put code in those widgets.
Exactly.
So
if you had
I don't
just a
think
widget that opened up.
I don't think they're incompatible. I think that
you could.
That's a first step into that. What are they doing with SwiftUI Kit now in Swift Playgrounds? Is it just an interface that I can design? Or I got the feeling with the new one that they're going to have more coding capabilities. I haven't played with it.
Well, the Swift Playgrounds, you can code. I mean, you can write code in it and watch it.
Because they said you'd actually be able to upload your SwiftUI apps to the App Store. So it must have more capabilities.
It has a lot of capability. I mean, you see some posts for folks say, I'm no longer a Swift developer, I'm a Swift UI developer. Like
right.
So they're definitely making it easier for folks. And because I don't have hands-on, I'm not going to go any
So this
further
was an announcement that they made, though, with iOS 15, and Monterey, right? Was a step beyond what you could do last year, right?
Yeah. And I think we're going to keep on seeing those steps. They have to make coding more accessible because there's more demand for coding. There's more demand for customization than there are people available to do it. So you're going to continue to see both education, Apple coding, in schools is a big deal for Apple. Grow with Google is a big deal for Google. Everyone's pushing down that path because they can, they have a huge, massive shortage of capacity. All of them are, short thousands of people.
Renee, have you played with? I'm trying to understand what's new. I know they made this announcement, and I apologize for not spending more time with it. What is new in the new SwiftUI and Playgrounds that wasn't there last year?
I think it's more robust SwiftUI support, but the big deal is that you can deploy to the App Store directly now, so you can finally make apps for iOS on iOS, which has been on everybody's frustration list going on.
And how capable is it? I mean, can you write Swift code? And I guess you can, right? You just put Swift code in it.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's nowhere nearly as capable as Xcode, so it's more of a.
So you might find yourself at a dead end, and then say, okay, now I got to move to Xcode.
You're not going to build Xcode in Xcode, but you'll build you'll be able to build basic applications, like the stuff that I think they want. I think the whole goal of it was so that people wouldn't have to learn. People wouldn't have to make their first app on a Mac anymore. They could make their first app. They could learn how to make apps. They could learn all of that on an iPad now.
I've been spending some time trying to learn Flutter and Dart, which is also a cross-platform designer that's from Google, so it's Android first, but it supports iOS. And you can make it pretty native. They have native widgets for it. I'm curious which will be the better way to develop for the iOS platform.
Yeah. But shortcuts are really golden because there are people, as soon as you ask them, tell them, hey, but there's this really good programming development language and environment that's available now on the iPad, they totally turn off. All they really want to do is dang it, why is it so hard for me to create a bookmark in Safari that will also be bookmarked in Chrome or someplace else? And you say, well, it will take you maybe 10 minutes. If you haven't done a shortcut before, it might take you 20 minutes to learn it, but then you'll have learned skills that will make you late on all of your work because you'll be trying to it's the chainsaw principle, where you buy a chainsaw because there was a downed limb in front of your front lawn. It takes you maybe 10 minutes to cut apart that limb, and then you spend the whole rest of the day playing the game called what else will it cut? And that's shortcuts in a nutshell.
In AppleScript, you could embed any arbitrary program code. I presume that's the same in shortcuts, yeah? So you could get so far with shortcuts and then say, I need code, and then you could say, oh, good, I'll just write some code and check it.
Usually what you do is you'll find on the App Store someone has written an app that is there almost solely to support shortcuts, so that if you want if you want a graph that's to spit out based on health results or on financial results or whatever, there's a really great app you can buy that will just do nothing but take parameters and spit out a beautiful graph of any kind that you want.
It's just I had this problem with AppleScript too, and I did quite a bit of AppleScript coding, and even before that with HyperCard's programming language. Is that they're not traditional programming languages, so they're very difficult for people who are programmers to wrap your head around, because it's like, wait a minute, it's too English-like, and I feel like that's a disadvantage. But I know with AppleScript you can absolutely write code in some other language and then call it. I presume you can do that in shortcuts. You can call something in shortcuts, right? I should probably check.
I've never even tried that, because it's never even occurred to me to do that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. Because I feel as though shortcuts are in a certain box mentally, and that by the time I want to run external code, that's a good time to start thinking about other tools.
Maybe, yeah.
Where's Matthew Casanelli when you need him?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I don't know.
I think you can JavaScript
I bet you can.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be crazy. You could in AppleScript, and I'm sure you could. You can. OSA script -E telapp system events. Yeah, no, but I want to put in. I want to put some Python code. That's what I want to know. Can I put some Python code in my shortcut?
I'd be surprised if there weren't a helper app for Python.
There's got to be a way to do it.
Pass it some variables and then have this container that has your Python scripting.
Yeah. Certainly was with OSA script.
Yeah, my God, it was so hard to abandon AppleScript, because by the time I was having so much fun with it, from like my first days in my 20s to the days where I finally had to get rid of it, because kind of like my last car was just it was rusted out, and I realized that I was just using AppleScript because I liked it so much. It was at the point where if you could call up any user interface element within AppleScript as well. You could use Interface Builder from Xcode to build whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, the sophistication of the apps that I was building.
I just could never wrap my head around it. I just if you're doing anything in any other language, it's like I can't go back and forth. I just can't.
Oh yeah, and I'll say it had its problems. The worst debugging problem most frustrating one I've ever had to solve was there was an update to AppleScript during the time in which I had sent my manuscript for a long AppleScript example to, I think, Macworld. I had this really incredibly cool AppleScript that would automatically it would basically take a look at a live stream from a video capture card that had closed captioning. So it would keep an eye on the closed captioning stream, and so whenever a keyword would pop up, it would start recording and save it to a file, so that if you wanted to monitor CNN at any time that this topic comes up, please save that file. And it worked great, was perfect, was wonderful. And in the time that was in editing, an AppleScript update came out and it stopped working. And it took like a team of Jason Snell, myself, and someone else days and days and days to figure out that as a result of this change, the fact that I referred to an object as like the window instead of window, that was what was causing it to die. And at that point, some of my love for AppleScript died as well a little bit.
Yeah, they just don't. The tooling isn't great. Though I have found in shortcuts there is a shortcut command that will probably solve any issues I might have. Run script over SSH. So I can SSH to another computer and run a script. Hey, that's good enough for me. So I'm funny that way. I get, my head gets in a space. I've been doing so much functional programming lately, and that when I sit down at Python and change the value of a variable, it makes me shake, because no, you shouldn't be able to do that. That's insane. Whoever thought that was a good idea? Then I go, calm down, Leo. It's okay. It's okay. Let's take a little break. Andy Anako, Renee Ritchie, Alex Lindsay, the A-team is in the house. We're talking about everything Apple. Our show today brought to you by, quite literally, CacheFly. CacheFly is our CDN, our content delivery network. It has been for more than 10 years. In fact, it was so hard in the early days of the podcast to get the podcast to people. I was going through all sorts of crazy, at one point I was using BitTorrent and begging listeners, please, when you get the podcast, seed it so others can download it. Matt Levine called me from CacheFly, said, Leo, please, we can solve this. And we've been a happy CacheFly customer ever since. Now, CacheFly, they've been doing this since 1999, has added something that I think is very cool for you streamers: ultra low latency streaming. We're not talking the web RTC thing we were talking about earlier. No, this is really low latency, delays as low as under a second. But you also get all sorts of other beneficial things. You see that great HTML5 player they have, which means with that SDK, you can do support everywhere: websites, applications, even mobile devices. Global delivery, because CacheFly is the fastest CDN for throughput globally, with over 50 points of presence all over the world. On their low latency network, your video streams will be streaming quickly anywhere you have viewers. Doesn't matter what continent they're on, they get it right from a server near them. And it can really scale up to 1 million, actually more than 1 million concurrent users, as well as ingesting thousands of synchronous streams. And they can ingest RTMP, RTMP-S, SRT, and more, deliver ultra-low latency SLDP and HLS streams at the same time. You'll get a solution just right for whatever you need. That's one of the things CacheFly really offers. Great customer support, 24/7, 365 days a year. And they can help you design this so that it works perfectly. More than 1 million concurrent streams, up to 5 times faster than other CDNs, backed by a 100% SLA. I mean, honestly, CacheFly's the one. They pioneered the first Anycast CDN infrastructure in 2002. Their desktop technology automatically finds the fastest route to and from customer origin across that big global network of POPs. We're very happy to be coming to you on CacheFly. It's one of the reasons it's so easy to download our shows. CacheFly is giving away a complimentary detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends. See if they can save you 20% or more. Just go to twit.cachefly.com. No pressure, no sales, just information to help you make the right choice. twit.cachefly.com. We're big fans. Thank you, CacheFly. Big Samsung event coming up August 11th, 2 weeks from tomorrow. We'll be covering it, of course, live. I'm making Jason Snell get up at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Jason Howell, not Snell.
Samsung?
Snell would be wrong. Yeah. But this is going to be their Galaxy Fold 3, we think, and their new Galaxy Flip. When is Apple ever going to do a foldable phone?
I don't know.
The pressure they've got them.
Yeah. The pressure is definitely going to be coming up there, because Samsung has gotten so good at developing these panels that a lot more manufacturers are getting on board. There's the third generation of Samsung's foldables are probably going to be the first generation where if you got the scratch, it will actually be a practical and functional and useful phone. Whereas the first one was clearly for the press. The second generation was for early believers. I think this third generation is going to be the first one where if you have been enamored of this sort of thing and you've got $1,500 to spend at least, it will be an actual functional, useful phone. There's a stronger a rumor that Google is coming out with a foldable phone is also gaining speed and traction. Don't know if it's going to be this year, but there's going to be a time where they might find themselves in a Samsung Galaxy Note situation where someone is foolish enough to actually put these out there. They're smart enough to figure out how to make them work, and then suddenly everybody wants them. And that's, I think, when Apple will very, very seriously want to come out with a foldable. They're not going to come out with a foldable just to flex their technology. They have enough great stuff as it is. But man, if a folding iPad Mini, that would get my attention quickly. If I can't think of anything else that would almost immediately get me to switch my phone from an Android phone to iOS as a folding iPad Mini.
Do you think Apple might look at what Microsoft has done with the Surface Duo, and instead of a folding thing, have two screens with a hinge?
No, those
are the current prototypes were like the previous prototypes were all hingeables. Going back to the iPhone 4, that's just because that was a limit of the technology.
That's all you could do.
And they just didn't. And they just didn't believe that the current panels are mature enough. But it's going to be similar to the big phones. Like there were Galaxy Notes for years, like famously for years.
Yeah,
and
it took
Apple
them a
was
while.
Making small phones because they don't really care about, like sometimes they're first, but they don't really care about first. And now it's hard to imagine Apple not having a big phone, honestly. And I think it'll be the same thing. People like us will doomsday saying they're late to the market. They don't have any, and Apple's going to look at the size of the market and say that we don't have any presence in premium foldables, but it's not a big market yet. And then as it approaches the move from early adoption to mainstream acceptance, Apple will come out with a foldable, and then 3 years from now, like we'll just all think that those are normal phones again.
Are you all excited about the new iPad Mini rumors? The iPad Mini 6
doesn't fold.
Doesn't fold. Doesn't need to fold because
I would love it if it folded.
You can only fold it once. And then
I was going to say, everything will fold. It just will it unfold and continue to work is the question. Yeah,
I love it because
Andy and I want the foldable
by
minis.
reducing the bezels and getting rid of the home button, they can get the same form factor. They can get a little more screen in there, which is nice.
It's a mini Air, basically.
It's super exciting because the smaller there's a sweet spot for the size of an iPad that it's got to be once you make it larger than a phone can reasonably be, but still so portable that you could stick it in your back pocket. That becomes a thing of wonder, I think, because iOS can flex on its App Store quality, on its content quality, all that sort of stuff like no other device can. There are a lot of pocketable tablets out there that run Android, but none of them are compelling. They're usually just sort of like the OS that runs underneath an ebook reader. You can buy I think Barnes & Noble still sells a Nook that's made by Samsung that is kind of like that sort of thing. But it's still apps that are basically phone apps that are run on a big screen, not iPad apps. So that it puts me in a pickle because I already spent my iPad money this year.
Yeah,
and
so did I. I spent my iPad Mini money for the last 4 years.
Yeah, and I did cheap out on buying a replacement phone last year, and I bought the really super cheap Google Pixel, and it looks like the Pixel 6 might be the one that I was waiting for, and I can't. I absolutely cannot justify buying two iPads in the same year. The same year I might be spending $1,000 on a phone, but oh my God, that if anything could make me want to eat ramen noodles and dry toast for 2 whole months to afford this, that could be it.
Yeah. It was unclear at first whether it would have a home button. The latest rumors are it will either have Face ID or fingerprint ID on the on-off switch.
Fingerprint, not Face ID.
Yeah. I think you do want to maximize screen real estate if you're going to make a device that'll fit in your pocket.
Well, also for this device, the mental interface of having a screen that is just a screen without anything else on it, that is such a valuable thing when you're dealing with something that is about the size of a paperback book, something that you would hold in your hand all the time. I don't think the bezels are a huge distraction. I think that there's way too much to be made of, oh my God, that bezel, it must be 5 millimeters. These designers must be ashamed of themselves. But this is a device that, so long as I could still hold it without accidentally like doing button presses, that'd be great.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think I could actually see adding this to my iPad stable. I'm using the new iPad Pro a lot more than I thought.
iPad Junior.
Yeah, the Junior. I really like the iPad Pro. Will there be mini LED displays on other iPads going forward? Will this mini, for instance? Not yet. They're still not there yet.
No, well, I mean, it's a BOM. It's a bill of materials. They want it to fit a certain price point.
Yeah.
Mini LED is expensive, and it'll be a mini. If they did that, it'd be a Mini Pro, and it's not positioned to be a Mini Pro.
Got it. And probably we're talking October, right? I mean, I'm just guessing September iPhone 13, October iPads, November
Traditionally,
Macs.
September is iPhones and Apple Watches and the lowest end iPad, at least for the last two or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And then October is Macs and the higher end iPads.
So they might
We've
show
seen
a
that
mini.
all change over the last year. So.
But they could conceivably show that mini in September.
Yeah.
Reason I'm interested, it's not that far off. You know, for a while, the fall sounded like a long way off. We're
August
almost
is
in
What
next
August.
happened to 2021?
It's going
It
fast.
disappeared. It was
Well, we were used to the sluggish pace of 2020, and now
2020 Junior is going by really fast.
So yeah, that's exciting. Actually, speaking of iPhone, I guess if they're going to announce a new iPhone in September, they're probably starting to make them now. Would that make sense? We're starting to
Well,
see
they're gonna
supply
stockpile.
chain leaks, right?
August is usually the ramp up month, isn't it?
So among
Every
others,
YouTuber published their dummy model hands-on this week, so that's one of the signs of the apocalypse.
the dummy model hands-on. How accurate do you think those are?
They're usually pretty accurate because they're what a lot of manufacturers use to base their cases off of, and that's so much money if they get it wrong.
Yeah.
Where do they get those from? Is there one person who's blessed as the person who's going to be making the most accurate one, and then they sell them out, or is it usually just here's some files?
Between us friends, they bribe. It's such a big business. They bribe people on the supply chain to get them.
Yeah. If you're working at Foxconn for $1 a day, somebody offers you $1,000, you might want to slip it into your pocket. These are the dummies that, according to this Chinese social media site Weibo, we're seeing. I don't know what that tells you.
Marquez has some very pretty robot footage of it up as well.
Oh, really? Robot?
Of course he does.
Wow.
Well, he uses the robot to like move around it and get different angles.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Motorized precision.
What is he using?
Motorized precision
Wait a
arm.
minute. What is he using?
Xbox controller.
It's a motorized. I believe he has a motorized precision arm. I don't know which one he has. They think they start at 75,000 and they go up to about $250,000 a piece. And
He has
they're
like
fully
8 red
programmable.
Monstros though. So I mean, what's
Mostly
surrounding
just
her
because you don't want to hand hold it as you shoot it.
No, you can do really precision moves because it's an arm that you can program, and it just will, you can say, I want to do this camera move and then look at it a couple times and then do it exactly the way you want to do it. And it's when you do product shots for commercials, I mean, when you're not doing
has a
CG,
dope tech.
that's the...
He has a dope tech video up on the arm as well if you want to see the exact one he's using.
Yeah, but that's so it lets you do exactly the move that you want, and it has tracks as well, so you can have it travel and turn and move. And
these are used a lot for things like you're dropping something from the ceiling, or you're doing super slow-mo and you want to get just the right product
or effect shots, because it'll do the same shot over and over again, so you can do passes.
Yeah.
But there's some studios
kind of crazy for a YouTuber to have one, but hey.
Well, when you got when you're Marquez Brownlee, you can spring for it.
Well,
it's.
I'm going to guess. I'm going to bet you anything that he didn't spring for it.
No, they gave it. They gave it. I think they gave it to him.
Leo, have you seen Steve Gerald's stuff?
They've got us talking about it. That's all they want, right? Who's Steve Gerald? What is
he does all those commercials where you have like the really slow motion capture of like oranges smashing.
Yeah. I've seen it on TikTok.
Falling into the glass.
Yeah.
He does a lot of TikToks and Instagrams.
Yeah, I love those. Actually, that's the TikToks I had to delete TikTok because I spent too much time on it. But those are the TikToks I used to watch. Is all the filmmaking, the movie making TikToks are
I think
fascinating.
my favorite one recently was Smarter Every Day. Did one on air fuel mix in slow motion, and they just showed how the carburetor worked, and it was just like watching all the stuff in slow motion at 240 frames or more than that. It's like 1,000 frames a second.
There's no
like
excuse.
It's just mesmerizing.
If you're a kid, there's no excuse not to know everything now.
Yes.
I mean, why not? Yeah. Why not just know everything there is to know? There's no excuse for ignorance anymore.
My daughter learns new songs all the time, and you're like, where did you learn them? YouTube. She just downloads them and they just go. She just goes through it and just plays. She just learns a new song on the bass or on the keyboard.
If you're begrudging the amount of time your children are spending watching YouTube videos, maybe you shouldn't.
We're at the point now where whenever there's a skill or there's a solution I need to make, like again something is broken and I need to be able to, oh God, how do I replace this compressor on my fridge? I don't even just say maybe there'll be a YouTube video about it. I expect it.
There better damn well be.
I feel entitled, but and I can
falling
choose
down on the job if you're not YouTubers. You're exactly right. He shot this at 28,546 frames per second.
And when you watch it, it's just unbelievable. It's like mesmerizing.
Now you know how a carburetor works. Yeah, there's just I remember the teacher drawing this up on the chalkboard. There's no excuse for not knowing everything now. Jeez Louise. Good Lord. The problem is there's too much. There's too much stuff. I can't,
total of human knowledge.
Yeah, it's all out there. And, in a way, by the way, this came out June 30th, less than a month ago, 5.4 million views. So somebody's watching it. I think in a way, this is the good news is thanks to YouTube, there is support, financial support for this kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's or Marquez Brownlee having a motorized arm.
Time and time again. But when I'm watching some of my favorite stuff on television, sometimes I take that moment to sit back and think Amazon is budgeting $500 million to do a version of the Lord of the Rings as a streaming show, and they're trying to compete with Fran Blanche showing me how a 1962 display technology worked, and they're probably not going to do as good a job. Like I'm like, oh my God, there's a new Franlamp video. I'm going to cancel. I'm not going to do what I'm canceling my plans because I can't wait to see it.
Forget Dune. I've got videos.
Yes. And the thing is that what's really exciting about it is like I've had the opportunity to work with Destin, and just like Renee, like Justine Ezrick, like Destin. You have people who
are passionate.
They're passionate about this thing. They love doing it, and it wouldn't work in TV. Like you because the market would have to be so broad. So when you look at Smarter Every Day, he puts up all this. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels, second only to Renee's channel, but one of my favorite channels just because he's just an unabashed geek about all kinds of different things. Like you just never know what's going to, this was just one of many weird things that he shows that you just can't stop watching, and I think that it's a really great, there's a bunch of sites like this.
Yeah.
I'll say this to anybody who's considering starting a YouTube channel, starting a TikTok, starting anything. The most valuable thing, it has nothing to do with the cameras, has nothing to do with having a good focus. It really is all about your point of view. You have a unique perspective on the world, on what fascinates you and what you think is interesting enough to share. And time again, the number of channels that I subscribe to that are on topics that I don't have any practical interest in, but I'm really interested in how this creator shares his or her understanding of the universe through how they build cosplay, through how they take apart old electronics and put them back together again. This is what gets me going.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Music theory. I know nothing about music. I'm terrible at it, and I've been watching a ton of music theory lately. It's because it's so fascinating to hear them talk about it so passionately.
Yeah.
In a way, it's depressing to me because there's not enough time left. Yeah. I don't think if you were born now, today, Leo, there would not be enough time left to do everything and learn everything you want to learn and have the chance.
That's why the algorithms will tell you. The algorithms will tell you what to learn. Yeah. It's fine.
Well, the funny thing is you can scan through so many things. What it used to take, while there's so much to learn, you can learn it so much faster.
Much better.
I have this thing about trying to get to single ingredient. So I look at anything that our family's getting and I go, well, how do I make that a single ingredient so that we don't have to buy it in a box? And so I looked at this big section of spaghetti and decided I was going to learn how to make pasta. And, ordered some pasta, little thing to flatten the pasta out. In 20 minutes, I was able.
It's not hard to become a pasta expert, I confess. Yes,
it isn't. But the point is I realized it was a mystery to me until about a week and a half ago.
Yes. Yeah,
and then it was just like, and I watched the video. But not only that, you watch some videos that are kind of hacking through it, and then there's this Ukrainian woman, or Russian that she's like, this is the way to do it. Like this is the measurement. They're going to tell you a bunch of things, but this is the measurement. And if you just do this thing, it'll turn out every single time. Right. And I just love the fact that you go to YouTube.
It suits a certain type of personality. And Alex, you're that type of personality. You're an enthusiast. and your enthusiasms move rapidly from thing to thing. So it's perfect for you because you get an enthusiasm. You want to know how to make perfect popcorn, and you can do it.
Right.
You know, there's a way to, and you're done. And now you move to the next thing. Not everybody's like that, but if you're like that, you're in hog heaven.
Well, and that's the thing, like with office hours. I mean, what we realized was that the only thing that makes us all the same, because everyone's different, they're all over the world, is that we're curious. Like we're curious and we want to figure something out. And so you just have a bunch of people that are like talking about it. We're cooking on Saturdays again soon, and because people like to do that too.
Yeah, but
with cameras.
So there's a curious person who spends an entire lifetime mastering a single skill. That's one kind of curiosity,
right?
And we need those people. I've been thinking actually a lot about that because I'm like you. I'm the broad but shallow guy, and I couldn't do it. But the people who are real expertise are the Itzhak Perlmans of the world, who spent 100,000 hours just banging on that violin, arpeggios and scales,
Yo-Yo Ma.
Right.
and your Yo-Yo Ma or whoever the Ma, and or the rock climber. The New York Times had an amazing online piece about rock climbing.
That was Spider-Man.
Yeah. And so this guy, obviously, he's a Czechoslovakian rock climber. He'll be in the Olympics. This guy, or Simone Biles, who unfortunately has decided to drop out. But those people are willing to spend their entire life pursuing a singular passion, often to the detriment of everything else, including family life, financial success, everything. That's not you and me, Alex, or I would guess most. We want to learn everything there is to know about everything there is.
Right. I do wish that I had a couple life. I would think of the dream is like, I have a whole lifetime to do this one thing. And
Yeah, we'll never be like
the
the maestro of any. Although you're pretty much a maestro of video production and stuff. I guess you have one thing that you're very good at.
I mean, I've been doing that for 40 years, so it
you have to. By the
time.
way, that's what it takes. You have to, you can't be a great violinist in a year. You just can't.
Yeah. We had I think I mentioned that after hours now goes 22 hours or 21 hours.
You're getting there.
It goes
bit by bit.
So, office hours is 3 hours and after hours is 21 hours. And so we fill.
You do. You have it all now.
Yeah. At the end of after hours today, Todd Reynolds, who is a Philharmonic violinist, but he also does loops and electronic and everything else and mixes it all together. He came on and he said, "Hey, I'm rehearsing something for Saturday. Do you guys want to hear it?"
God, that's awesome.
So for 5 minutes, we just sat there and watched this incredible artist just kind of practice. And his practice, of course, is better than anything I could even imagine doing myself. And it was but
there's a word for what
was
you
really
and I
struck
are,
with-
and I don't be insulted, but dilettantes.
Oh yeah.
We love everything and we want to know everything. And then there are people who are willing to just put blinders on, and I couldn't do this.
But I will say that
go deep.
I am very focused in the sense that I don't read fiction because I think it's a waste of time. There's no information. There's not enough actionable
information. Well, you do have
information.
to pick and choose because there's so much.
Oh, you make it.
See, I disagree. I think fiction is incredible, but
so I don't.
To each his own.
But again, I'm stingy. I'm very stingy about time. So I'm really interested in what I'm interested in. But I think I've said this before. My wife can tell you where all the cheapest gas is in Novato, and I can tell you every gas station with a right turn in and a right turn out.
Yeah. Perfect example. Steve Jobs very famously, when the family was going to buy a new washing machine, spent days. This is in the Walter Isaacson biography, researching washing machines, and then had
every piece of furniture.
Yeah,
they had an empty house for months because he made them do that with every piece of furniture.
I admire people like that, but
that is a problem. Sometimes I love the fact that if you say, "Hey, I think I'll bake a birthday cake for my spouse next week," and I'll go on YouTube and find the best birthday cake recipe out there, and then you wind up going to the bakery because you spent too much time trying to find the perfect one when you should have just said, "You know what? Here's this recipe is good enough. I'm going to just muck in, do one practice cake, learn from that." Yeah.
The aphorism is the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Exactly, Voltaire. I think that was.
Yeah. But I guess my reverse is that is good enough is the enemy of great. So
yeah, and I just there's not enough time. I want to do it all. Yeah. I want to do it all. So let's talk a little bit about just briefly because this is an example. So for years, NFL Films and the Olympics and Wide World of Sports understood that the way to make sports interesting is to talk about the humans and give you the background about the humans and stuff. And I think NFL Films kind of mastered the storytelling around sports, but I think there's something the internet can do that television never could do. And this is a really beautiful example from the New York Times about Adam Ondra, the climber, who's the best rock climber in the world, Spider-Man, but who will not probably win gold, even though this is for the first time in the Olympics. Because, well, it explains it. But what they've also done with this, besides these great interviews and so forth, something TV can't do is explain the different sports and the strategies and so forth. This made me a fan of rock climbing.
Yeah, it's nonlinear.
It's because it's nonlinear, and it shows you, the strategies he's using. And I just thought this was brilliant.
I have to admit,
better than the newspaper too. By the way, the New York Times is learning that if you're going to succeed, you need to use the medium appropriately.
Did you see Chuck Todd was on Neelay Patel from The Verge has a new podcast called Decoder. He started it when I think Kara Swisher left for the New York Times, and he said some really interesting guests. And this week it was Chuck Todd talking about how Meet the Press, the oldest show on television, can't survive on television anymore, so they're turning it into a brand. There'll be a Meet the Press show and a Meet the Press daily and a Meet the Press podcast and a Meet the Press segmentized thing on the internet. And it's going to be an entire empire Meet the Press, because the TV alone isn't enough anymore.
Well, and what they're looking at is stuff like the New York Times, which was a heritage technology that was dying, and the New York Times, unlike most newspapers, found a way to survive, right?
Yeah, but and it's not just about, well, we'll need to pivot to where the audience is. It really is seeing it as an opportunity, not as a desperation move. I mean, this was one of the reasons why I stopped writing for the Sun Times. I mean, it was mutual, but this is one of the reasons why I was trying to say, well, look, we don't have to just do like 1 or 2 columns a week that go into this editorial pipeline. I could do like a regular blog in which things that happen like at 1 p.m. I can at least talk about it at 1:30 p.m. and publish it immediately. And unfortunately, at that time, at least, the Sun Times was just so stodgy in its workflow that it couldn't understand that just having something published on the web is not taking advantage of what the internet can give you.
There's so much more to it.
And the main thing is that a lot of things you start realizing that a lot of constructs are created because of a limitation, and then we just live inside of that limitation all the time.
Right.
So you look at because like this morning we had John Tatoulis, who's the founder and CEO of Sound Devices, on talking about their new transmitter, which is really cool. But we did that for an hour and we all asked a bunch of questions, and we'll do that again tomorrow with someone else.
Right.
And the big thing is that we had to go to conventions, and the reason you did that is because it was hard to get everybody together. And we had to get a big space to show the stuff. And this, I was thinking about it when I got out of that. I was like, and it was better than going to a booth because it wasn't what my questions were; it was what everybody's questions were.
Right.
Yep.
And we were all able to kind of build off of each other's questions to fully understand a new product. And the main thing is when you think about that with conventions, or even like I looked at Sony was doing some kind of webinar this morning, and it was just kind of like, okay, we're trying to do this thing that feels like an event. And I was like, if you just did something every day where you're talking about your products, I'd probably just go up and go to the product that I'm interested in.
A lot better.
It would cost the same amount of money.
Yep.
Than trying to do something shiny for once. It would, just daily interaction with your audience is going to, but we can, the key is that we're just no longer limited by time and space, and we keep on living inside of that. For Andy, or for the Chicago Sun-Times, it was their print schedule. Like, this is how we do this thing.
Right.
That was the limitation that they had, and they just didn't have a way out of it. The key that New York Times did that I think was they got ahead of it. While they still had a good business, they built the new business. The problem you get into with print, in music and coming soon TV, is that they just keep on living off of what they have, and they're not taking advantage and extending out into a new platform and using their current viewership to move into the new thing. Because if they don't do that, they won't have a thing to move into, because then they lose that audience, and now they have to build it up from scratch again.
It's spectacularly hard to do. The New York Times success really is more the exception that proves the rule, that the innovator's dilemma really just stops incumbents from going to the next thing. It always takes a startup or a new company to do it. And, when the internet first started, it was obvious that people were just going to treat it as something they already knew. If we were a magazine, it'd be a magazine. If you're a newspaper, it'd be a newspaper. If TV, it'd be a TV. But also was obvious, at least to me, that that isn't what the internet is, and it's going to take a new generation of people who are internet natives, and it's going to take decades before they really start using the internet to its potential. I think this is a good example. We're just
look at how
starting
they're editing on TikTok. Like people are short form video native now and using like just pressing the button, letting go, pressing the button, turning their head, letting go.
Isn't that amazing?
In ways that are inventing
They're doing
a whole
those
new
camera
language.
moves that arm could do. It's pretty amazing.
And some people are doing VFX that were as good as television like 4 or 5 years ago, which it's not taken away from them, but it's unbelievable they're doing that on their phone in their bedrooms, like flash moves and superhero moves. And
it's normal. I mean, I look at myself. I turned podcasting into radio. That's not necessarily what podcasting is, but that's what I knew. I guess with the little TV thrown in, and that's what I knew. And I don't know if I can innovate at this point. I'm really glad to see somebody like you, Alex, innovating in that space. OfficeHours.global, if you want to know more about. We've been talking a lot about office hours. Let's change the subject. We'll do that in a sec. Wonderful to have our panel here, Alex Lindsay, OfficeHours.global. And I don't want to give short shrift to your day job. 090.media. What do you do at 090.media?
I mostly work on, my title is head of operations, but really what I do is I work on complex audio and video pipelines. So mostly as they relate to high dynamic range and
so he has
immersive
huge
audio
expertise in this. And people hire him and 090.media to get that done. This is OfficeHours.global I'm showing right here. So, yes, if you need that expertise, you know where to go. Andy Ihnatko, whose regular appearances at WGBH in Boston every week. I think you're going to be in the Boston Public Library soon, yes?
Yes, it was supposed to be this week. It had to be postponed 1 week, but next Thursday, I will be back in the studios at the Boston Public Library. I'll remind people next week because it'd be great if people come by and say hello, and I'll hang out and we can talk about all of the things I was wrong about.
I keep worrying that this Delta variant and the surges that we emerged, we stuck our heads out, and like Punxsutawney Phil, we saw our shadows and went right back in.
No, you're absolutely right. The Boston Comic Con was supposed to be next week, but they decided to delay it 1 month, and I'm so glad for it because whereas I was such a week maybe on, even though I bought my tickets like months ago, so I'm like $100 in. It's like I'm not sure if I'm ready to be in a big enclosed space. Next month I'm still a maybe, but at least I get a month to waffle about it.
I could tell you it was a little scary being in Hawaii with a lot of people cheek to by jowl. I'm going to a baseball game Thursday, a Giants game with my son. I'm a little nervous. It's like I think I'm going to wear a mask.
I was going to visit family in Provincetown last week, but they recently had such a spike that they reinstated their mask mandate because of the Delta variant. And so
while you're there, pick up some herbs of Provincetown for
herbs of Provincetown.
I'll take some orders.
Mask mandate out.
What's going on in Montreal? I asked Georgia on Sunday because she's there too. She says it's getting better.
No, we never stopped our mask mandate, and I'm so grateful because the CDC waffled. I think they waffled big and they waffled early because they wanted to appease people, and it was the exact wrong thing to do. And and I get it. I totally get it. People are so frustrated because we feel like we stayed indoors, we wore masks, we socially distanced, we did everything to protect people who were in serious need, and now a bunch of you are just flouting the regulations, and you're flaring up Delta and making us do all the precautions again. But I mean, like these are people who don't have the best information, and we got to be compassionate.
I don't blame them.
Empathetic.
No, I agree. I don't blame them.
Try to show them.
They're being lied to.
Yeah. Yes.
Essentially. And then there are some people with vaccine hesitancy for good reason. If I were an African American, I would think back to the Tuskegee studies. And
Native cultures too. I mean, for sure. But there's such an advantage to for the first time we have the capabilities, the technology, the medicine to push back the literal plague.
It's a miracle.
And we're just choosing not to.
It's a miracle. And we're turning our back on it. They say God will provide. God provided an mRNA vaccine.
I sent you a helicopter. What are you doing here?
Renee Ritchie.
Some countries are so desperate for vaccines.
I know.
And
That's
we're
the
flouting
thing.
them.
That's another big problem, because even if we were 100% vaccinated in the U.S., we're a rich nation. There are plenty of nations in the world.
At least we have the option of being silly and saying no. There are other countries that were like, for God's sakes, if everybody who's saying that you don't trust this, great, send me your dose.
Yeah.
It'll be.
And I say this with like a huge amount of compassion, but if you think it's a political issue, please delete Facebook. Please uninstall cable news. Go spend some quality time in the library and just like detoxify, because it's not. It's just health. It's basic
it's
health
just a health
economy.
issue. YouTube.com/Renee Ritchie. Renee is also pushing the bleeding edge of what can be done. You went from writing to video. Was that a hard transition?
It was hard only in that I started writing video, which is not the best, most natural, authentic way to deliver video.
Same thing, right? You take what you know and you apply it to the new medium, and it's not necessarily the best thing for the new medium.
Yeah, but I got yelled at by a bunch of really smart people, and now I'm working my way towards wholly what's the right word when you speak off the cuff video. So that'll be a big transition for me.
Extemporaneously. Yes.
Extemporaneous, yes, perfect.
Yeah. I'm a fan of off the cuff just because I'm lazy. Laziness.
Mine is a pure mental thing. Like, I can sit here and talk to you and Andy and Alex off the top of my head, like, continuously. But if it's just me staring at that camera,
hard. I know.
Suddenly I'm falling all over myself.
It's so hard. You know, I was at first a little upset about the news that Spotify bought a podcast, a single show, for $20 million a year for 3 years, $60 million. The Call Her Daddy podcast, and then I listened to it. And I realized, you know what? Alex Cooper is actually really talented, because she does one of the hardest things there is to do in broadcasting, was to sit down all alone in her bedroom with a microphone and connect. And I don't know if she's worth $20 million a year. That's a lot of money. I don't know if any of us are worth that much, but I'm glad she got it, and she is a real talent. It's really interesting to hear.
She got her primal branding down. Like, I first found out who she was when they had that huge controversy about her and her partner splitting up and trying to get a deal off of Barstool, and the Barstool CEO got involved. It was just so much popcorn drama. But then she
Which,
went on.
By the way, they say is good for ratings, I hear.
Yes. It was huge for ratings. They were worth so much more afterwards. But the primal branding of like everything, like they have like Daddy Gang, and they make people feel included, and they have their value propositions and insiders and outsiders, and like you can go straight down the primal branding book and everything. And a lot of really successful media personalities do that. They have their little pet. Like we have that here at Twit too. It's phenomenal. Like it works really, really well.
Yeah, and I don't know about her. We did it kind of unconsciously. I bet she did too. She's only 26, but she had a gut instinct that was, really worked out. Yeah. You know, for years I worked in radio where they would fake these feuds. I remember at WNBC, Don Imus and the sports guy down there who I worked with.
Don Imus and everybody though, right?
Don was famous for this. He knew how to do it. I mean, whether it was his natural point of view, a gut instinct, or he was very calculated, he knew exactly how to do it. He was in a feud with Franklin. I can't remember his name. I used to work with him, and he told me this whole thing. But the Imus would Franklin would go and literally take the microphones out of Imus's studio. So Imus would come into the morning show, and he'd have to do it by phone. I mean, but the thing is, both of them pretended the feud, but they knew this is good for ratings. This is a winner in ratings. So
and Call Her Daddy is also a millennial sex show, which has a much bigger potential audience than we have for Spotify, Leo.
I understand that.
The topic matters too.
If I could have done a millennial sex show, believe me, I would have. I'll never. I mean, that's
it'd be very different.
That always works. I remember when we got a big shot producer to come in on the screensavers at Tech TV. The first thing he says, "You need more cleavage." And it's like, yeah, no.
And Leo's like, I'm wearing a V-neck. What do you want?
Well, how much cleavage can that guy give you here? Anyway.
Should be. I'm sorry, but I'm wearing my Breakpoints
t-shirt.
More cleavage, Andy. We need more cleavage. Ted Lasso is back, baby, and its season debut very, very successful. Big hit for Apple TV. I think this was the number 2. Let me see here. Demand share is increased by 54%. Second most in demand digital original in the U.S., right behind Loki. And I would argue a little bit more satisfying than Loki.
I would agree.
Well, there's no alligator Ted Lasso, so it's hard to compare.
Eighth most in-demand show overall, 40 times the audience demand than the average show. So, and successful globally, too. 18th and most in-demand show in the world. So, very good news for Apple, which needed a hit, really needed a hit.
And it's good by any standard, no matter what channel it might be. It might have been on. Whatever production company and whatever distributor was able to produce that show was going to have a big hit. I think it's a
good show.
Great
That's
show.
why.
I still haven't made it to the end of the first season, only because it seems to be my my iPad show because the Apple TV app is on it, but I don't necessarily have the Apple TV app on all my other streamers. But my God, the level of quality every time that you see that you think that they're setting up something that you've seen before in terms of, okay, well, this character is going to be this kind of person, and okay, well, obviously they're going to go down this road. Nope, they're bored by they don't take the first bus. They find something that's more interesting. So yeah, it's great stuff.
It is the biggest show and the biggest premiere Apple TV Plus has ever had. And right in the nick of time because they're starting to charge.
You need a TV show that makes you feel like you were struck by lightning, Leo. Yeah. That's what you deserve.
You were, I think, the first person to tell us about it, Renee. You were early.
I got Serenity Caldwell very early. She watched it and said, "You have to. You are the tech Ted Lasso, and you have to watch this."
And you are the tech Ted Lasso. Oh my God.
Believe, Leo. Believe.
You are. You need a big paper sign above your head.
I need a mustache.
No, you don't need a mustache.
How's your shortbread?
I'm working on it. The YouTube video I've been watching is from Kenji Alt Lopez. It's very good.
I bet Kenji has the best. You know, we interviewed him for the new Screensavers a few years ago. I went down to his house, and he cooked for us. And little did I know what a special thing that was.
He's got a GoPro on his head. That's his whole YouTube channel.
He's amazing. I know, he's amazing. So Elon Musk, again, the magnet for controversy, decided
Elon's got Elon.
Elon's got Elon. Decided to slag Apple just a little bit. He said he said our batteries use a minimal amount of cobalt, unlike that fruit company. Apple, he says, uses, I think, almost 100% cobalt in their batteries, cell phones, and laptops. Tesla uses no cobalt in the iron phosphate packs and almost none in the nickel-based chemistries. On a weighted average basis, we might use 2% of the cobalt compared to Apple's 100% cobalt. So
the cobalt wars have begun.
This is in response to the fact that cobalt is oftentimes mined by children in countries that aren't very democratic.
I don't believe Apple makes their own batteries. I think they use Samsung and other vendor batteries.
And Apple, in its defense, said we really work hard with our suppliers, and we have a supplier's code, and we make sure that they live up to that code. So yeah, we may use cobalt, but it's not mined by children.
Yeah, and it also needs to be said that although almost every single tech company has something like that, we keep an eye on our suppliers. We have contractual obligations for them not to use certain label. But oftentimes that's just there to insulate themselves for when the scandal hits. Apple really, really does go above and beyond to make sure that they make it very, very clear in their deeds, not just their statements, that they don't want to be using any materials that's being used by bad labor.
They audited all the cobalt suppliers last year, and they continue to do that. And I think that's Apple's very committed to that. So I'll defend Apple in this case. He also, this is, by the way, during the Tesla earnings call. He also said, I think we want to emphasize our goal is to support the advent of sustainable energy. It's not to create a walled garden, and you use that to bludgeon our competitors, which is used by some companies. Then he coughed and went, Apple. Apple. He's such a child.
I mean, that's why we have CarPlay on Teslas. I mean, it's really a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And he doesn't have any. That. By the way, that was one of the number one reasons I didn't buy another Tesla is I wanted CarPlay, and I don't like the Tesla media player.
But also it's hysterically funny he's talking. Exactly. It's hysterically funny that he's talking about walled gardens, given that
his chargers are Tesla only.
Well, but also that, like, if a single like $30 part on a Tesla fails, you have to send it back to Tesla. If they decide that, we don't want to sell you just one part off of a battery pack, we want to sell you an $18,000 battery pack, and no, we won't help independent shops figure out how to fix our own stuff. It's like, okay. Elon's got Elon.
Yeah.
But
Elon's going to be
if
Elon.
if there was an Apple coin, he would have totally pumped and dumped it. So it's fine.
Speaking of really nice online production, NPR's doing some great stuff. This is an NPR story. Who will pay to protect tech giants from rising seas? It's got a lot of video and illustrations and a map that points out kind of where
they'll be fine. It's us that are in trouble.
I have to say that I find this new scrolling thing that both NPR and NY is very stressful.
Yeah.
Like it
clearly
Apple uses it too.
Some CSS technique. So, but I agree with you.
It takes too long to acquire the like
you have to scroll through it.
Okay.
But
I can read that a lot faster.
The point is well taken. Google is right there on the San Francisco Bay, as is Facebook. This is I think if the Cupertino campus for Apple is a little bit farther, but not so much farther.
The spaceship floats, though, right? That's the whole reason they designed it like that.
It can take off.
It flies.
It hovers.
Yeah. Just move it if it becomes
get
a problem.
out of there.
But it does speak to a larger issue that given that so much of the supply chain is isolated, depending on not only manufacturing is isolated in certain locations for certain product lines, but also the raw materials that you're getting to make batteries to make certain products is isolated in certain places. A flood that takes out that source.
We've seen that
for a number of times.
Yeah.
Exactly. That causes a huge ripple effect. So and there's the human impact is a lot worse, of course, but later on you start thinking that, well, this is why we can't manufacture phones in time for a fall release. This is why we can't rely on batteries being replaced on the regular timetable they're supposed to, because of global warming, we had this title change that was not anticipated when this factory was cited 30 years ago, and as a result, the entire industry is very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. There was a paper I was reading that said, you think that movie, The Kingsman, where Samuel Jackson is a billionaire who pretends not to care about climate change because it's going to just destroy the 50% of the poorest people on Earth, which is an advantage to him, as a joke. But that's actually how a lot of the big companies are looking at it. They're financially solvent enough to survive any of these changes, and it's going to result in less competition and less resources for them.
I'm not sure.
Resource competition for them.
I don't know if Facebook owns the buildings that are the old Facebook, not the new Facebook building. They own that. I'm not sure if I think they lease those buildings.
Yeah.
It's a long-term lease,
So
but I don't think
it's
it's their building. Well, no, I'm just saying that I don't know when the lease is, and I don't know how it goes. I thought it was interesting in the article that I didn't know is that the new Facebook building is actually, I think, what is it? A certain number of feet off the ground. Like there's no offices. It's all parking below.
Yeah.
So if there was a huge wave, it would literally go under the offices.
You got to think they've been thinking about it.
So
a
many
2-foot raise in the sea level, and it'll just be no parking. But we probably won't want cars by then anyway. So
what is Phil Schiller and his Lamborghini going to think about that, though?
It's true. It's true.
Did you see that video, Leo?
No. Phil Schiller's Lamborghini.
Phil Schiller's on Lamborghini.com. He's got a Q&A and a reminiscence about the importance of passion in design on Lamborghini.com.
He's on the board, right?
Q&A is more pertinent.
Is he on the board?
No, Eddie Q's on the Ferrari board. Phil Schiller is just an enthusiast of all of the Volkswagen Auto Group, Porsche, and
there is that his Lambo.
It's the second one that's more apt for us.
Oh, okay. Let's move down a little bit here. Apple fellow Phil Schiller. Oh, he has what is that called? A Countach?
I don't know if he has one. He has the 918 though, which is and he has a Singer.
You can't drive this on the road,
right above
can
this.
you? Can you drive this?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. You can? You're allowed to?
Yeah, the Countach.
Should you?
Sure.
Should you? Is the question.
You can't take it anywhere you're going to park it. I think that's usually, or you have to park it.
Park it diagonally on
the Apple
two
campus, and in your underground
unless you
layer.
want influencers to line up, get their selfies in front of it.
Yeah.
With the hashtag living best life.
The next one.
He's most proud.
They
of
asked
the
him, "What's your
iPod."
favorite Lamborghini?" He said, "The next one."
My favorite.
I'm so excited about it.
Of the
But
three,
he's most proud of the iPod. That was his favorite. His
My wife,
product
Kim.
that he's.
You better say that.
I would always say combustion, but I'm getting ready for electric. I think the world.
Oh, when you get an
requires
electric
us,
Lambo,
so I'm
you will
excited to see
love it.
what companies like Lamborghini can do to bring efficiency.
You'll have
in a
range of
way
20
that still
miles,
brings
but boy, will
emotion.
you have great torque. All right, anyway.
Well, you've got a range of 20 miles already, Leo. That's
I
not
know. It's not that much different. You're used to it. Hey, I thought I would get Alex to comment on this. Lucasfilm has hired a YouTube deep faker who did a better job than Lucasfilm did of the Luke, Leia, and Tarkin cameos. Here's a deep. You know what? This guy got away with it and didn't get sued by Lucasfilm for doing this, but I'm not going to play it because
Lucasfilm is good. Lucasfilm is generally very tolerant.
Okay, good. So apparently, this guy is good at his name is Shamuk.
Warner Brothers, who are jerks.
Yeah,
Disney is usually much better.
I'm not going to take the chance. Shamuk, and he's got a job at ILM now.
Yeah, I think that it's a different approach. So using deepfakes as an approach to do that is different than what ILM's done, which has generally been explicit control over the character. At least my knowledge of it is really they're building which is incredibly difficult, is to build a photoreal version of that person, and it just never has completely got over the edge. Now, I'll argue that he's not necessarily doing better, he's doing different. There's definitely things inside of that solution that don't work all the time. So, neither of them are 100%. Some people will say one's better than the other, but it's obvious that there's a lot of possibility. And if you took someone like that really knows it, and then hands them to the scientists and computational engineers at ILM, the mixture of this will be a lot more powerful than him working by himself or ILM trying to reproduce what he's already thought through. So it's probably a relatively inexpensive purchase. I mean, not purchase, but higher for ILM.
Yeah,
it's a great way to get a job. It's easier he'll just save them a bunch of
their resume. Yeah, Shamuk's new title is Senior Facial Capture Artist.
Yeah, that's great.
He's gonna know every pimple and mole on every actor everywhere inside the Lucasfilm.
Did he do
portfolio.
deepfake Tom Cruise? Was he deepfake?
No, that was
Tom
somebody
Cruise?
else. I don't know. I'm not familiar with their work, but still, that's cool.
The deepfake Tom Cruise was great because they took a lookalike of Tom Cruise and then deepfaked him. So they had a lot of the mannerisms.
And
everything else.
Yeah, it was a little easier to do. I don't know how your Italian is, but if you listen to this broadcast of the Olympics from the Italian broadcaster Eurosport, he's talking about the women's volleyball, but then he turns off his microphone and asks the technician for the password to the computer.
La password è boot 3. Pippo invece
and announces it on the air.
So good.
Well, someone needs to watch that training video again, I think.
He's making fun of the password, by the way. He says, porca miseria.
See, these guys aren't in bikinis. This is so unfair.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Did you love it that Pink is paying the fine for the
so
Norwegian women's volleyballers who don't want to wear bikinis? And instead of wearing shorts,
so ridiculous. That was just whatever these athletes feel as though is the most comfortable and appropriate thing to wear, they should be able to wear it. The moment I saw that it was the years ago, it's like that can't possibly be the most comfortable thing to play beach volleyball in, and it's just disgusting.
Actually, I correct myself. It was the handball team, which is even more ridiculous. You can come on. Beach handball. I mean, this might be a mistranslation. There's beach handball.
It's like volleyball, but
you're doing it with your hands. I don't know. Wait a minute. I got this. Good for you, Pink. I don't know if they. Yeah, there they are, and they're wearing still pretty sexy shorts. They just didn't want to wear bikini bottoms, and I don't blame them.
Wear what you want.
Wear what you want.
Was it one of the German gymnastics team that said, "Guess what? We're wearing leggings from now on. We're tired of sexualized costumes."
Yeah, let's stop sexualizing these athletes.
If Quebec ever separates and we get to go to the Olympics, we will wear Speedos, and we should have the right to do that.
And if you want to wear a Speedo, you go right ahead. I just don't have to.
That's what we wear in Florida. That's what we're going to wear to the Olympics.
I want to see it.
Worked the other way around too. There was I think it was not the Olympics, but international track competition where one female runner was chastised by a judge saying, "Oh, your shorts are too revealing and too sexy."
Yeah.
And she said, "These are the same shorts that everybody wears for lightness and freedom of movement. Go to hell."
Yeah.
It's like,
good for her.
If you think these are too, if you as a male think these are too sexy, then that's about you and your reaction and your feelings.
Right.
Don't make me, change what I'm doing. That's it's disgusting every time this isn't about the sports and about this anyway, it's
well, I think that
and same thing with
beyond
creators.
speech
Talk about
sometimes.
their work. Don't talk about their appearance. Like, just don't go on the video and be that person.
I did, however.
Why do I have to shave? That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
That's 5 minutes of my
Sideburns
life
should
I'm not
be
getting
allowed in men's beach volleyball. I'm going to Poland. There's a new museum opening in Poland later this year dedicated to Apple and its products. This should be really, Renee, you got to do a show about this.
Where in Poland?
Well, I don't know why in Poland. Why not?
Where? No, where in Poland?
Where
Not
in
why.
Poland?
I understand why, because it needs to be done, but where?
Yes.
Where?
3,500 square feet. I don't know. They just say, well, let me see. Can you read Polish?
It's a
How's your Polish?
Stephen Hackett. It's a Polish Stephen Hackett who's built this.
Yeah. The Apple Museum at the Norblin factory. Norblin. It's
The Norblin factory complex in Warsaw. It's gonna be opening
Piashenko.
this fall.
Oh, they say Warsaw. Okay, good enough. So they're going to have 3,500 Apple, 1,500 Apple exhibits dedicated to the development and evolution of Apple products. I think Field Trip.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Maybe we'll do a special live show from there.
Yeah. Field
But yeah,
Trip.
it sounds really interesting because it's not just, hey, we went on eBay and we managed to find like an Apple II GS that was clear. They apparently, according to the release, they have a lot of prototypes, they're really getting into here's what the real history of the company, not just the mythology. And I know that Steve Jobs famously doesn't care about Apple history to the extent of putting what is now like $1 million Apple I board in the trash outside of his office to clean things out. But when you have a company that has the sort of impact and reach as Apple, it's really, really valuable when those stories get told to the future engineers, future designers, and future cultural historians. So I'm glad that there's some interest in acquiring this stuff and making it available to not just tourists but also researchers in the future.
They will have not a real Apple I, but a faithful replica of the first Apple I. And it works, and it's signed by Steve Wozniak, the motherboard and the manual.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, that's cool. Models known for their interesting role in the technological race and development. Visitors will get to know devices notorious for failures. I guess they'll have the iPod Hi-Fi there. And prototypes that have not been put into mass production.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of them operational or are being restored. Visitors will be able to touch, test, and experience them under the watchful eye of a curator named Olga. So don't mess with her.
No, I know that round mouse is frustrating as hell, but it's an exhibit. Don't throw it against the wall, please.
It's actually Red Guardian after he needed a job, and that was what was available.
We'll be watching you. Let me see. Is there anything else I wanted to get in here today? There are more rumors, of course. Titanium will be the material, I think, for the iPhone 14. That's more than a year off.
Yeah.
Who cares? Maybe we'll talk about that when it happens. I think that's pretty much everything. Have you been watching the Olympics?
I'm not even aware of how to do that. Honestly.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking.
hard
I'm
to
not
watch.
saying that. Yeah.
So there's two ways to watch it in 4K. If you are a Comcast subscriber and you have an Xfinity X1 box, which I used to have, and they're terrible. I got rid of them, replaced them with TiVos, which leaves me out for that. But I did 4 years ago watch them on an X1, and at the time it was over the top and it was very stuttery. It was not, and even though I had good bandwidth, it was not a good experience. Now, if you don't mind paying an additional $20 a month for your already expensive YouTube TV subscription, which is $65 a month, you can get YouTube TV in 4K. And I have been watching the Olympics in 4K HDR, and it looks pretty good, although I was a little disappointed to find out that in many cases they're upscaled 1080p cameras. So, but when it is good, it looks really good.
They're also downscaling the backhaul, so it's going down to 1080p and then back up to 4K.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So it's,
some of it is in
some
8K.
cameras.
If you live in Japan, you can go and watch it with 22 speaker surround sound and 8K video.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty
It's an interesting subject because a lot of the movies that we're watching in 4K aren't shot in 4K. They were all shot on Arri Alexa cameras that were 2K,
right?
And they're all upscaled.
Some of them are. Well, it depends. Yeah, some of them are 4K. I mean, some of the Aries can do that. So it just depends on what they were shot on.
Apple's quarterly results coming out, is it later today? They're coming out soon.
I think it's the 29th. Is it?
Okay.
I think it's
so
2
day
days
after
from now.
tomorrow. It's on a Thursday. So we will be talking about that next week. What do you think? You think they're going to make money this year?
I think they made some money. I think they didn't. I don't think they're going to have to
Oh, no,
close.
it's today.
I'm
It's
not going to say
Tuesday,
like
27th.
August is the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
today.
today.
Oh, it's
5
today?
p.m.
I should go to TechMeme. They have the list of all the...
I want to see if Tim Cook swings back at Elon Musk. Is he gonna?
Ooh, this is going to be a big day. Today we get Apple, Google, Microsoft, and AMD. All of them announcing their quarterly results. And of course, stock price is down on all four because you want to, what is it?
Profit take.
You buy on the rumor, sell on the news. So they should be, I don't know what's going on. Wait and find out. Apple and Microsoft sell off right now before their earnings come out. Google too. Pretty big sell off. Not that I pay any attention to that. It just gives me FOMO. All right, let's get our picks of the week in next on the show. Start the picks of the week this week. I'll go from left to right. Start with Renee Ritchie.
So my pick is Marquez Brownlee, who we were talking about earlier, has started a new YouTube channel. Some people have many, many YouTube channels. Marquez notoriously has had just one for a very long time, and it's called The Studio, and it's for all the sort of behind the scenes and gear and everything else he's using. He started it off with a 30-minute video that just is the studio tour, including the robot arms, including the top down. There's more red Monstro sensors in this than I think in the red cupboards back at the factory, but it's just, it's really cool to watch. And he's really grown the team. Like he got David, I'm going to say his last name wrong, from Android Authority Police. Really amazing YouTuber. He got Hayato Hausman from Android Central, another really, really great YouTube person. And they're working on production. He's got a podcast team. He's got researchers now. He's got motion graphics people. There's all of them.
And
with
by the way,
168.
he's got one of the new Mac Pro cubes back, cheese graters back there, I see.
They've got so many. Like half his desks have the Mac Pros on them with like 368 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
The other half have iMac Pros.
Wow.
It's just the amount of technology in that place. And he's got all the power coming down from the lights into the middle of the room, so there's no cords on the floors. He's got carpeting. He's got ceiling, but just looking at how they've got everything set up, and they have a dedicated room for top downs, two dedicated rooms for sets, one with white walls, one with gray walls, because as Alex Lindsay will tell you, you got to have that interface gray room for a lot of your productions. A whole robot room, a room just for the robot. And it's really fascinating to watch. And he's promising a lot more of sort of behind the scenes, how they do that sort of videos to come, which I'm really interested because he's got some really talented people. He's always had talented people working with him, but he's really expanded that team lately.
Just a word to the wise, Marquez, don't spend all your profits on your studio. I spent all of our profits on this table that can go up and down, and now I wish I'd had that money back. So just...
It's a really nice table, though, Leah.
It's a good table, but I'm just saying, Oh, talk about FOMO. Wow, look at this. Beautiful. I will not be watching the rest of this video. I can promise you that. Just jealous as hell.
Nothing like launching your first video in 19 hours and having 183,000 followers.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. People love Mark.
He also joked that Hayato joked that he was, I think, using the Mac Pro to use Google Docs, and it was the only way to get it not to spin up the fans.
I want to see the robots. Does he?
Yeah, I think the robot's somewhere in the middle. That's another one of the rooms.
Good Lord.
The robot
He copied that from Apple Park. He said Apple Park has a few rooms that have matte boxes on the ceiling, so that it's just soft light everywhere, and he tried to copy that with D300s.
Gee, I don't know anything about that. I wonder what his long-term goal is. Does he want to take over from NBC or what? I mean, good Lord.
I don't know. I wonder if maybe Netflix, who knows?
Yeah, there's the robot.
There's the robot.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Very cool. And apparently a lot of pets in there.
Just one Mac.
Yeah.
You just train them. That's all.
And that's the iPhone prototype or the iPhone dummy.
Right.
We're filming for the video.
Wow, look at that. And of course on a green screen because why not? That is, if you want to do that, that is youtube.com/ well, I don't know. It's called The Studio. Search for The Studio on YouTube. studio, the team at MKBHD. Andy Anako, pick of the week.
I have two picks. Both of them are things that you can buy sight unseen, but if you're interested in them, you might like to have this opportunity to buy them sight unseen before you can't buy them. First of all, Best Buy is having a deal on iPad, the iPad Pro 12.9-inch Magic Keyboard, not the current version that costs $350, but the version that's for like last year's model. And
but it fits perfectly. I've been using my last year model on the 2021. It's fine.
It's the only difference is that the 2021 iPad Pro, like mine, is 0.5 millimeter thicker and it's a little bit heavier. But the difference here is that they're selling these for $199, $150
nice.
off. So I went and ordered one yesterday for sure, because to me, that was the right price for any type of a keyboard add-on for it. I was not going to spend $350 for, no matter how well Apple engineered it was. So I came across this yesterday. It's still active today on Tuesday. So hopefully by the time people listen to this might still be going on. I also heard people saying that they even found some at Walmart at $150. So
wow.
keep your eyes open. But $200 was enough for me. There's also you can return it within 2 weeks. So if you find out that it doesn't work the way that you were hoping it to, you're not out that much money. But the other piece of news is that we've been talking about the Playdate handheld game console, handheld game system for a while now, and they finally announced the pre-order date. It goes on pre-order on this Thursday, on the 29th, I believe that's the actual date, at 1 p.m. Eastern time, $189. I think it's another $30 if you want the cool snap-on cover, this is another one where it's like, I was kind of sorry that I bought the $200 iPad keyboard despite the great deal, because I'm like, I was kind of hoping I could buy this anyway because it looks like the sort of game console that I'm kind of interested in. Doesn't ship until the end of the year. Also, they've said at Panic, they've said that they anticipate being able to fill all orders. It just depends on how long it's going to go. I've also read that it's not going to be the sort of thing where, if you're not there by 1 minute past 1, you won't be able to place an order. You'll be able to place an order. You'll just have a position in line for the thing. So don't feel as though you got this one chance and then if you're out, you're out. But yeah, it seems like the sort of stuff that I want to take a gamble on, because it was a great idea 2 years ago, and the more information they came out with, particularly last month, just got me more excited about just this cute little handheld, quirky little handheld that has a subscription service for games where games just magically appear on it. You don't know it's coming, but you have an idea that because it was designed for this weird device, it will have attracted weird enough developers that they're going to be interesting.
And I like seeing this, that you'll be able to develop for it. They're going to offer a free SDK, and you can sideload games onto the Playdate. And it's their web browser games. So that's pretty interesting. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, they've also, if you're curious, they did put some hardware in the hands of a few select people.
I saw some reviews. Yeah.
I think that they were barred from reviewing like the games that the sample devices had, and the intention was to take a look at the hardware, and a lot of the initial worries like, it's not a backlit display, and almost everyone's saying no, that's not an issue. So long as there's any light whatsoever, it's good. That it feels good in the hand. It's a very good experience. So I
want this stereo dock. That looks really cool. Then it's a little robot on your desk.
So cute.
That's so cute.
And it comes with a pen.
Banana Junior. It's right out of Bloom County.
It's right out of Bloom County. You're right. That is
does look
cute.
Like a little Mac.
Yeah. That is really cute. All right, so Playdate is at play.date, and it's from our good friends at Panic Software who do so much great Mac software, so I like to support them as well. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week.
My mom got me a birthday present, and I had put this off forever, and I actually really like it. This is I knew I would. This is the Ember. I think this is the 14-ounce Ember. And what this does, of course, is it's got a little platform. When you put it on there, it charges a little.
It's a USB mug,
and your phone can talk to it and set the temperature. And so I have it set at the maximum, which is like 145 or whatever. But I can put coffee in here and just let it sit, and I can work my way through it. And it's warm the whole time.
I have mine right here. I think I have the same one as you do. This is the little charger plate, and it plugs in, and it
works great.
Stuffy kit.
I'm always surprised because I'll be sitting because on office hours, I'm there for hours, and I'm always surprised that I'll be like halfway through an hour, and I look down, and I pick it up, and go, oh, it's still warm. Oh, it's still warm.
Well, that's the other thing. It has a battery. So
it has a battery, so you don't have to have it.
You charge it up. And
I have the platform on my desk so that it'll just last all day. But you can totally walk around for a couple. I don't know how many hours, but you can keep it there. I've even my wife has got one, and sometimes I take hers, and so that if on a really long show, I can go for it. I can finish one and just pick up the other one. And
another cup, please.
Yeah, exactly.
So
give me the next cup.
I don't think you can put the cup in the dishwasher, though, right? You probably have to hand wash that, I would guess.
I have I'm a little funny about that. I wash the stuff I drink out of my hands. I'm really touchy.
Anyway, you don't want a dishwasher washing my cups. No,
but it's really good. Also, just a quick reminder, it's not really a pick, but it potentially is a pick next week or some week in the future, is Blackmagic has a special at 10 o'clock on Thursday. And we'll probably do some kind of... I'm
sure office hours will stream along, yeah.
Yeah, and...
what do you think? What will they announce? Cameras? Switchers?
A lot of us think it'll be an 8K camera because... they already did the 12K camera, so they somehow missed it. They missed the turn, oh, let's go to 12. And we're like, okay, it'd be really good to have an 8. So we think that there's an 8K camera. We also think, and we have no inside information. We have no idea what's happening. So, and we've been wrong at least 50% of the time when they. So our guess is that 8K camera, probably a refresh of all the switchers between the minis and the Constellation. All those switchers are old. They have old chips, old processing. They don't do all the things that the new ones do. And so we think that would unify the entire pipeline there. Might see more 8K. Because it's during the Olympics, and the Olympics is doing a lot of 8K, we kind of feel like there could be some more 8K stuff there. One thing to notice is what we noticed, that the Blackmagic is now advertising the Mini, their little Mini, in Time Magazine.
Wow.
And National Geographic.
That just shows you two things. One, how popular they are, but also how broad the range of creators is. Everybody's a creator all of a sudden.
And it's just that pyramid of who's getting into this is just going super wide.
Well, and Blackmagic has a lot to do with that because they're very affordable.
Well, they're in the halls at Las Vegas Convention Center. So for NAB in October, everyone's been talking about the fact that Blackmagic has half of the North Hall.
What?
Half. I don't even know if they know what to do with it.
That's got to be 100,000 square feet. That's huge.
I think it's more.
Oh my God!
Than 100,000 square feet. I think I heard someone say it was 180,000 square feet.
Oh my God!
Of space. Yeah. So I don't know what they're doing with it, but they have half of the North Hall.
Clearly, they're a successful enterprise. That's great.
They're doing okay.
Almost as successful as Marquez Brownlee. That's pretty good.
They might be.
Marquez will get the other half.
Got the other half.
Yeah.
What's crazy is a company that big that's privately held. It's
good for them.
It's just Grant and 1,000.
What's the story? It's just some guy came up with it, or
there's such a long story there. It'd be good to do it. You should do a triangulation with Grant. That's what you should do.
Oh, I'd love to.
It'd be really fun.
That would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to try to reproduce the whole story, but he's worked in board development and for other people before he did Blackmagic, and finally started doing his own thing. Just got frustrated and started doing his own thing. And first came out as just inexpensive capture boards that were being OEM'd by AJA, and then he did that, and then he slowly just kept on. It went from boards to
his timing is perfect because, of course, not only is there suddenly a huge audience for his stuff, but the technology has really moved along very rapidly in the last few years, and he's been able to take advantage of that.
What's really interesting is how many companies are doing video in Australia. You have Atomos, you have Atomos, Blackmagic, vMix. There's all these companies that come out of Australia, and we think it's all related. I think it's all related to JCar. JCar is the Radio Shack of.
So you had a lot of kids learning this stuff, soldering.
I feel like boards. It must be because it's just like it is because JCar. I thought I went to a JCar in Melbourne, and I thought this is the most amazing store I've ever been in. It's like it's what Radio Shack should have been.
That's awesome.
And then I found out there's like 200 of them.
Oh
200 of them in Australia.
I bet you're right. I bet you're right. That would be a really interesting thing to study.
Yeah,
that's
it's fascinating.
Really interesting.
I'm just waiting. I feel like now we have to persuade them to come to the United States and just buy all the old, just take over all the old Radio Shack things.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah. Guys, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm not just talking to the panel, of course, Alex Lindsay and Renee Ritchie and Andy Anaka, but also to all of you who listen and watch every week. We can't thank you enough for being loyal listeners to Mac Break Weekly. If you want to support us just a little bit more, advertising sales have been down quite a bit since COVID, and we'd like to do more. For instance, like to do more triangulations. There's a way to do that with Club Twit. You can join Club Twit by going to twit.tv/clubtwit. $7 a month. That's it. There's no yearly. It's just one thing. $7 a month to month. No contract involved. What do you get? You get, of course, besides the glow inside knowing you're supporting us, you also get ad-free versions of everything we do. Although apparently an ad snuck in to Sunday's Twit. We're taking it out now. I apologize. A number of people said, oh, it's so nice to hear an ad. So sometimes people miss the ads, but if you don't, ad-free versions of all of our shows, audio and video. There's also the Twit Plus feed, which has a lot of stuff, from beginnings. Like I suspect today's pre-show conversation will make its way into the Twit Plus feed because that was pretty interesting. So stuff that didn't make it to the regular podcasts. And then our fabulous Discord, which has turned out for me to be one of the best parts of the whole thing. I just really love the Discord. It is a chat server. We've always had IRC, and we'll always have IRC as a free and open chat server, but Discord is all the rage these days. We're able to create live stages where people can ask questions. Every show has its own chat, but it's a place where really nice, interesting people get together to talk about all this stuff we geeky enthusiasts are into, between anime and autos and books and coding, all the way to movies and philosophy and photography, space, travel, and more. If you want to know more, again, I think it's well worth the $7. I really appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit.
And if you're in the Discord, in the Twit Discord, and you complain about my hosting abilities, I may actually respond.
Oh dear.
I just
you responded nicely, I'm sure.
Yeah, no,
yes.
moo. Yeah. So I just explained what it's like on the other
actually,
side,
I did see that. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah,
no, it's challenging.
You don't have
and
you can't see everybody.
Leo makes it look a lot easier than it is.
No, I don't. But that is still thank you.
Yes, you do.
Thank you for the kind words. I think the Discord has really turned, and you have a Discord, of course, for office hours, and I really like this. I think it's an interesting medium. I really like Discord a lot. Really having fun with it.
It's great. It's the kind of the backbone of what we do on office hours. Yeah, it's great.
We also, for people, and you don't have to be in the club to do this, but for people who like to travel, we feel like travel's coming back. Lisa's put together a Alaska cruise for the Twit family. Next year, don't worry, we're not going this year. It'll be July of 2022. If you want to know more about that, cruise.twit.tv. I would not wait too long. I know it's a long time. It's a year from now, exactly a year from now. But we have announced that Paul Thurrott will be joining us, which is great. Paul and his wife Stephanie, and Lisa and I will be on it. We're going to have some fun events. And I know it's hard sometimes to plan that far in advance, but I have a feeling that we are going to be out of rooms pretty quickly now because the cruise industry is seeing incredible response. So do not delay. Go to cruise.twit.tv if you're interested. We'd love to see you. That'll be a lot of fun. Polar bears not included. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Mac Break Weekly is a production every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific is when we try to begin, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live, be a part of the live audience at twit.tv/live. There's live audio and video. If you're watching or listening live, irc.twit.tv, great place to chat along with our Discord chat. Those are all people watching live at the same time. After the fact, you can get shows from our website, twit.tv/mbw. While you're there, you'll note there's a link to our YouTube channel. There's a dedicated channel for Mac Break Weekly, and a link to some of the big podcast clients to make that a little bit easy. But, of course, you can subscribe in any podcast client. If yours supports ratings or reviews, please give us a 5-star review. It would really help us spread the word about Mac Break Weekly. We think everybody who loves Apple should be listening. Of course, if you subscribe that way, you'll get it automatically, which is a nice thing, too. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Now, back to work, because break time is over.
Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you would like to laugh while learning about how to take control and take advantage of all of the features that your iOS devices provide, then you should check out iOS Today. The show Rosemary Orchard, my co-host, and I, Micah Sargent, host every week on the Twit Network. It's all things Apple all the time.